Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody in the chat doing today? Welcome, welcome back to Sage Talk. Guys, give me a one if you can hear me clearly. Let me know if you hear any wind sounds because I have the fan on, not too far away. And just want to make sure that there's no feedback as well. I like to use a desktop speaker, so I have some filters on to make sure you can hear it. Patrice Jean Baptiste. Okay. All right. Looks like you. All right. You gave me a one, then you gave me a two. So everything is good. All clear. Appreciate it. I am forever. Eugene Steele. How you doing, sir? Kenneth Collins. Welcome again. Observing the facts. Awesome. As I stated earlier, welcome to another edition of Sage Talk. Hipsteria boy. Am I pronouncing that right? Hipster boy. Okay, wavy. Dale Matthew, Talk That Talk, Proof Radio, 3TR. Luis Rodriguez, how are you doing this afternoon? The Food Channel. Nice. Isaiah, how you doing, brother? And last but not least, Uncle Stepdaddy. What's going on, guys? Now, as you can see, today's topic is pretty interesting. House of glass that women have built. Legislating emotion. Jeffrey Woodland, how are you, sir? And the reason I wanted to speak about this because, in retrospect, I've been kind of taking into account as to the long-term effects of some of the things that we keep seeing, not only in social media, but also that are facts on the ground with regard to laws that are being implemented. And laws like taxes have long-term effects. I mean, there are laws on the books now, currently still, from back in the slavery days. One particular law that comes to mind is the loitering law that was made to regulate black men's gathering. But also from time to time, various states or cities or municipalities would they will create a tax law, usually implying that it's temporary for some type of infrastructure development, improve the roads, maybe the tolls, putting more surveillance cameras, and these types of things. However, whenever the proposed construction or renovation or improvement, has been achieved, those laws never are retraced. They never remove them. They just sit there on the books and they never go away. Why? Because they're a source of revenue. It's a passive form of revenue. And usually traffic, if it's a toll tax, those things don't go down. People buy more and more cars. More and more people become adults and get cars. So it's an easy revenue source that's passive, that continues to grow. But in just pondering some of the things that have happened since 2020, 2021, and 2022, there are things that I'm seeing that are starting to take shape society, nationwide and society-wide. And it appears as though potential consequence, obviously anything could be subject to change, but potential long-term consequences is that women in general can become, and when I say women, I'm referring to women in the Western hemisphere of the world. That means America, Europe, UK specifically as well, Australia, Canada, and countries who are, their society is built upon the framework that America, through its leadership, has been implementing, and where feminism have taken the lead in reshaping our societies. And what I mean when I say the new untouchables, I mean, some of us may be aware of the untouchables in India. But the untouchables in India are people who are at the bottom of society, that those who are at higher levels uh, in economic status tend to avoid. The new untouchables potentially would be women. And it's not that they're going to be avoided because they're at the lower echelon of society. I think women are going to continue to grow and be at all different levels of societies. But women have gotten a newfound power, the arm of the law, and it seems as though they want to use it to strip men of independent choice and action, particularly as it applies to male-female relations. Ironically, the more you gain in power, at least it's the way it seems, the more women are attaining power, the more fearful it seems that they're becoming. And they're instituting more and more laws through governments to put in place in an attempt to assuage their fears and or their discomfort. Whether it's real or imagined, that's part of the dilemma that's taken place. Unfortunately, and I think men have found this out many, many, many eons ago. Obviously, we still struggle with it, but power, very much like a drug, are very similar. The more you get, the more you want. The more you get, the more you use. The more you use, the more intoxicating it becomes. So power is intoxicating, and it drives you to want more. Drugs are intoxicating, and it drives you to want more. That feeling. Sometimes we would say in regards to power, yo, are you tripping? Or are you drunk on power? Right? Those are common phrases that applies to people who, whether it's a managerial position, director position, general manager, from a business perspective, right? Some people, when they come into power, they tend to overuse it, use it in a more bludgeoning way to be excessive and control others. Unfortunately, since women have not really had a track record in society in building our society, and more or less they've just been the inheritors or the heirs of the society that we now have, that lack of experience seems to be causing them to be excessive in their execution. Over the past several decades, we have seen or have heard many women in all walks of life. They don't pull back. They easily state that they are more educated meaning than men. How some of them make so much money, some more than men. How independent they are. They have their own cars, they have their own houses, condos, businesses, so forth. And most notably, that they don't need a man, at least until they need one. And these are some of the drum beats of resounding commentary that we hear over and over and over. What's going on, Carlisle? I'm good. I'm good. Miss Best. Misuse, not use. Thanks for the correction. And so often people do misuse things, right? But we see it in, throughout our society, in the mantras of the movies. We see women becoming more super and stronger, more masculine, and men are becoming more feeble and incapable of what men once stood for and were able to do in terms of being masculine, being strong, being decisive. We see men now being indecisive, unsure of themselves, somewhat weak mentally, making judgments, and emotionally, oversharing or overexpressing of emotions. We see it on TV shows. We see it on, whether it be Netflix or Amazon Prime, cable stations that you guys may watch in the States. Obviously, legacy media promotes it heavily. And I mean, there's no place like social media, right? Social media capture life as it's happening. We see everything there in real time. Okay, who's this? United Stand America. Stupid Black Panther 2 got women leading. And that's why I said earlier, whether it's real or imagined, they're running with it. Unfortunately, because like I said earlier, women in general have not really been part of the foundation of establishing our society. In general, it doesn't seem like they're able to make good long-term projections and judgments or in planning. And the outcomes from various cause and effects, implementations and decisions that they make and what that can look like. So from my position, it seems as though the future looked bleak for many. And when I say many, potentially many, possibly most women. I mean, we've already heard some future statistics that by 2040 or 2050, a large percentage of women will be single by themselves, and some of them unmarried and without children. Referencing back to laws, one of the how can I say, the fallout effects of laws is that they're difficult to create, but they're even more impossible to remove. Once something becomes a law, it is almost impossible to remove it from the books. Now, some states, particularly to the United States, some states may refrain from using those laws, but as long as those laws are on the books, if they want to implement them, they can always reach down into their bag of tricks and pull it out for whenever they need. And I think what women fail to understand is that legislating emotions or feelings, it's like walking in quicksand. The more you move, the deeper you will sink. And the long-term effects, more than likely, will be negative. And it will be negative for women more than men. I know many people may say, how can it be more negative for women more than men? when in actuality, the laws are being structured or created to limit men's actions and choices and or options in certain instances. But just to kind of run through a couple of things that we know publicly already that we hear women complain about, and these are women that are extremely successful in our society. Top executives in most corporations or big corporations throughout America are pulling back. They're not traveling and taking business trips with female coworkers, even at the executive level. They're not meeting with females in private, which means mentoring and training is either limited or almost non-existent. Business trips are becoming fewer and fewer. And corporate activities, whether from Christmas parties to excursions and resorts, those things are becoming less and less. I mean, we recently saw, what was it, last week, that there was a female police officer who literally was kind of going through the entire police department, banging guys. And in the end, her husband supported basically by the stance and position he took. He's willing to forgive her for her behavior, possibly because he believed that's the best woman he can get and he can't replace her. A man that doesn't have a limited mindset and have standards would not take that kind of behavior. He would understand that once she stepped out and dealt with one officer, but not only one, a second, a third, or a fourth officer, her value should have gone down in his eyes if he was a man of standards. But because he's not, and she run the show, he basically is going to do whatever he believes is necessary to hold on. And men like that will get abused because women are just selfish by nature. They really don't consider other people so much, and particularly other men or men in general, because they'll tell you in a heartbeat, man up. Why you acting like a bitch? So we see how women move when they want to move. What was this? It says, finance man, professional men should not meet with female only. Well, I would say instead of only, alone, right? Because you would want to have a second or third person in addition to who, that female that you're meeting with. Yeah, okay, I see it. You asterisked it right below. Okay, cool. Right. Alone. Perfect. Because it could be dangerous. Because sexual harassment is interpretive basically only from the female. There's not a hard standards of rules that a man could look at and say, okay, if I don't do these things, I'm good. All a woman have to do is say, yeah, you did one of these things. Or she was made to feel uncomfortable by a look, nothing you said or nothing you did, by a look. So now that's open to interpretation, right? United Stand America. Linda, go make me a sandwich. Yeah, that's going to be more and more difficult. That's going to be more and more difficult to get in the United States. Linda ain't going to make that sandwich. Linda already stopped making sandwiches. Linda don't even know how to make a sandwich. Maybe she could order a sandwich for you, but as to make a sandwich, absolutely, Quincy. Now, this is a man, because I guess of his spiritual background and the integrity and ethics that he has, he's been looking at the far-reaching distance of where society is moving and I believe he's also trained as a lawyer. Understanding how the law works, he's taken steps to make sure he himself the risk can be reduced. Who is this? Charles Keys. I don't know if that's for senior, SR. If I have to ask for a sandwich, she's in the wrong house. Well, if she's in your house, then she got to get out, right? She got a stage left. The thing is that a woman should be aware of the kind of man she has. You know, last week we talked about on Wednesday and on the King Talk, they were talking about women supporting their men and how can they do that. And there are many ways a woman can do that, but if she's of the mind to do that, women will find a way how to be pleasing. If she's not of the mind, there's nothing you can tell her that she would be willing to do without some resistance. The thing is that corporate risk doesn't also affect the individual executive. It also affects companies and organizations. They can suffer significant either reputational damage, but also economic payouts that over time could be costly. Me Too, believe all women, that in itself is extremely dangerous. That implies that women never lie. And by kind of like for the law to act upon that as though that is a reality, what the law is saying is that women never lie, but men do. So the standards of, innocence until proven guilty, or even the standard of the proof of guilt, no longer really weigh much. Because if it's to believe all women, then the mere fact that the accusation has been said, there's nothing to really prove if you're going to believe all women. And the problem that I find with the whole Me Too movement, the Me Too movement is extremely dangerous because what it does is that, you know, like the movie Pre-Crime with what was that, Tom Cruise, right? You are being punished for a crime that you were planning on doing or thinking you might do. Me Too is actually doing something even worse. It's retroactively punishing you for a crime that wasn't a crime when you committed it. Like the whole Bill Cosby thing, right? And Quaaludes. In the 70s and 80s, and possibly the 60s, I don't know, because I wasn't really hanging. I was a boy in the 60s. But I became a teenager and grew into a man in the 70s and 80s. So Quaaludes was something that was a social drug pill that both men and women took to party and have fun. And it was a social acceptable behavior back then, 50 years ago. And the decisions that women made then and the decisions that men made were accepted as, if a woman said yes, it was yes. But to retroactively go back because the outcome that the woman may have thought she will have in her life 40, 50 years later, now that she's in her late 50s and 60s, that her life is nothing like what she thought it would be. And economically, she may not have the economic status or lifestyle that she may have wanted or thought she would have. They're now retroactively going after men to prosecute someone for a crime that wasn't even a crime. And I think that is like the worst crime, right? It's one thing to prosecute you in pre-crime that you might commit. It's another thing to prosecute you for something that wasn't even a crime at all, and then retroactively make it illegal from a future perspective. That's crazy. And that's no different than like in the 90s and the early 2000s when ecstasy was a thing. And quite frankly, in the next 25 years or so, you can see potentially brothers who, were hanging out with women, taking ecstasy, drinking, having fun, and or pleasures that you could potentially see in the next 20 years when you're in your 50s or late 40s and your economics are strong. And if those women, if their economics were good today but turn later to something not so good, they may decide to file a case. And the more women to jump on board, the more it appears as though it's real. So evidence is not necessary. It's just if there's one woman, the case might seem weak. But if there are 10 women, the case becomes stronger because just the fact that there's more than one woman implies that you're guilty, regardless of evidence. And where there may be some political motive to do something like that, successful men with aspirations of greatness can be brought down simply by the word of one or more women. And that's not a good place where we're headed. That could be extremely dangerous. And I don't think the momentum of what's happening is going to retrace itself. I think it's going to continue. I think it's going to get worse. Because one of the things about emotions is that emotions are reckless. Most people can't control their emotions. And most women, because they live in their emotions, they believe because they have that emotion, it's right. The feeling is good. If I feel like somehow I was betrayed, then I must have been betrayed. Because regardless of what I think, the way I feel dominates how I think. And that's where we are in our world today. Legislating emotions, feelings, things that change with the wind. MS Best. Okay, pull the wrong one. MS Best. Stop your poor manipulation tactics to switch it back onto men. That 304 was a common denominator. Okay, I guess that's a conversation that I may have missed from previous chats. In any event, another more recently, and I might have spoke about this a couple of months ago when I first read it, maybe in December or the end of November, was the catcall law, right? And I believe that's out of the UK. Catcalling meaning if a man see an attractive woman whistling at her, calling out to her, letting her know she looks good, you like what you see, or even further, try to get her name and number. If you're not the guy that she wants approaching her, catcalling at her, if you're not that guy, she can easily make that a sexual harassment approach. And I believe in the UK, it's if you're found guilty, it's what, 2 years? I'm not sure if there's a fine associated with it, but most of the times there's usually a fine. So you potentially could be fined and you could potentially go to jail. But let's just say you don't go to jail. Finance man, UK is wrong for this. Well, it's not just the UK. It's the UK, it's Australia, it's the United States, it's Canada. All of these countries are doing the same thing. So it's not like we can just say, okay, this one country. It's the Western Hemisphere countries, the so-called countries based on democracy. those countries are making unilateral decisions to legislate the emotion of women because of some unsuspecting or imagined fear that they perceive, real or not. The problem with the catcall law, every woman will make the decision upon themselves. There's not going to be no real standard. So if one woman see a guy and that guy approach her and she liked that guy, cool, she won't report it. But another woman may turn away that same man and potentially can report it. And all we need to see in society is one or two of these being made examples, and then men will recalibrate. Because the problem with the law is that the law can't distinguish between the man that you like and the man that you don't like. The law will apply to all men. And men with options, or men who have made themselves valuable economically with resource, reputation, and accomplishments, those men will take steps to reduce their risk, limit their exposure. Because laws are like a net. You throw out there, you'll get some, if you're fishing for red snapper, if you're fishing for bluefish, whatever it is that you're fishing for, you're going to catch not only what you're looking for, but you're also going to catch crabs, shrimps, scallops, clams. There are many things that you may pull into your net, shark, that you probably don't want. But nonetheless, a net will capture everything within its circumference. And I don't think women are really calculating the far reachings of those actions. I think they're looking at themselves and what other women say to them that, hey, I feel this way too. The big problem with this is that our society is structured where men have to make approaches to women. Women don't approach men. Women don't initiate the conversation when they may like a man. Now, they may give signals that they're interested by looks, hand movements, gestures, so forth. But as one or two men getting ensnared in these type of situations, other men who are onlookers are going to say, you know what? Nah, this ain't going to work. And the thing is that because as men, we can't fight back against women in general, it just make you look weak. Even just voicing your opinion to something that is an unequal standard can be spun to make it look as though you're a bitch. Why are you complaining? Man up. More and more, you're starting to see men just pull back. Less men are going into the universities. Less men are going into corporate type environments. And men are developing skills that are more survival skills. Things that they can do with their hands. Whether it's electrical, plumbing, building a house, roof installation, HVAC, things that matters to society, but things that keep you far away and separate from women. And also don't necessarily make you look the way you may have to dress to go to work as the type of man that a woman would even want to approach or would welcome your approach. And by men making these type of decisions, it's going to have a really deleterious effect on the broader society, because the society is going to become top heavy with females with skills that don't maintain the infrastructure of a society, and then bottom heavy with men having skills that are supportive of the society but are not developmental for the future of the society, which is going to be society is going to start to slow down in development, with the exception of maybe some technologies, right? Because obviously technology is something that's going to continue to grow. But what are going to be the long-term effects if men and women have to be in the same space working on technologies? One incident and other men are going to be like, nah, I don't want to be here. And because of the way the laws are set up society-wise, separating men and women from one another, even though men would probably prefer that, women will not like that because they know they benefit from being around men. So they're going to reject that. They're going to fight hard against that type of restructuring in society. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean in any accusation that you would go to jail, but accusations could be damaging to one's reputations, one's name. It can affect your business if you own one, or it can affect your marital status if you're married. It can also affect you on your job. Your job would rather get rid of you than to weather the storm and find out 2 years later after a case that you were innocent. That doesn't matter. Innocence has nothing to do with what's happening right now. It's all about image. It's all about how things are seen or perceived. If it's perceived a certain way, that must be the reality, which goes into believe all women. If a woman said so, then it is so. We see all the time, especially on TikTok, and I don't even have TikTok, but I see a lot of their shorts on YouTube where women be setting thirst traps in the gym, setting their camera up, wearing a particular outfit, stretching or bending over, or opening their legs and putting their knees practically behind their head and waiting for a man to look or do a double take or stare. And immediately they will take that video, upload it, and then try to shame or discredit the man as though he did something wrong. Legislating a man's eyes, that I think is a bridge too far. I'm not sure if it's Australia, but a couple of weeks ago, another content creator brought it out and was talking about how now just looking at a woman, if she feels uncomfortable and she take a picture of you looking directly at her, and there's supportive images by public cameras on other buildings or city traffic cams, if there's supporting evidence that you're looking at that woman to support her image, her photo as well, if you're not the kind of guy she wants looking at you, guess what? She could bring a charge and you could get arrested. All she has to do is send that picture, make a phone call, you could get picked up. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to go to jail, but it could be a lot of inconvenience. You could probably get a fine, which you have to pay, or if you want to fight it, you can fight it, and then you're going to still have to pay money out of your pocket. The big problem with these types of laws is that women are making laws for what they like and don't like. Their uncomfortability, their imagined fears. Many times a man may look at a woman, he may find her attractive. He may be thinking, I want to approach, what should I say? Putting his thoughts together before he actually stepped to her. But that 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it may be, maybe looking once, turning away, thinking, looking back again. A woman see that, she may think this guy's planning something to harm me, when all the man is doing is gathering his thoughts. So if he gets rejected, he may have a response back to overcome the rejection, or he just want to make sure he got the right one-liner or whatever he's going to say to give him the best chance to get a yes. or to be able to have a continued conversation. But if the woman don't see that man as someone she is attracted to, immediately she's going to categorize his look as being threatening, that he's some kind of a perv, that he's creepy. And creepy is like a really dangerous word, because what is creepy? Creepy is so vague that anybody could say something is creepy as long as you don't like it. But the very thing that one woman will say is creepy, another woman will say, "Oh no, he looks good. He's handsome. I like his eyes. I like his eyebrows. I like his cheeks. I like his lips." So it's so vague. Men can't be in a society where they have to tiptoe just to live every day. And these are the type of laws, especially looking at a woman or catcalling a woman. When I first came to Honduras, they had a big thing here with regard to extortion. People who had small businesses, big businesses like Pizza Hut, Wendy's, McDonald's. These companies don't get extorted because the owners are not there. But if you open up, a store, no matter if you're selling, either a restaurant or you're selling, food supply, whatever it is, or any kind of business, somebody walk into your shop, give you a phone number with a note and tell you to call that number. If you don't call that number, you might get a second warning. And if you don't, somebody in your family going to either get kidnapped or die. I've seen so many businesses just close after they lost a member of their family or after someone was kidnapped. Because the thing with extortion is that the fee never remained the same. They may want 2,000 pesos this week, but then 2 weeks later, they want another 2 or 3 or 4,000 pesos. And within 6 months, you have no money. You can't even pay your bills. And then in the end, somebody in your family going to die anyway, unless you can walk away from the business and move out of the country. If you can't do that, you're going to lose a family member. And these type of laws are just it's like bait for women to just extort men and take money, especially if a man have money or have a reputation. He probably will pay to just make it go away, because if he loses in court, he may lose more. If he can settle it out of court, which most businesses settle sexual harassment cases out of court, very few go to court because the criteria is so vague, and there's always going to be more women on a jury than men. And so many men can be persuaded to side with women just because they don't want to look bad. That more than likely, whether it's a corporation or whether it's an individual, you'll lose in court. So the best option would be settle the case. Make it go away. Think smart. It's not about who is right. It's whether or not you could just make that situation not be part of your life. No, they're not just coming for you, whoever that you is out there. They're coming for everybody. A woman wake up on the wrong side of the bed and she get on the train in New York and she's going downtown to work, and some guy's staring in her direction. You could be reading an advertisement that is either next to her or above her. But some people are so self-conscious that just the fact that you're looking in their direction, they will be of the opinion that he's looking at me. Why is he looking at me? And the person may not even be looking at them. But the perception is all they need. Okay, let's see. Carlisle. Now you can't just tell me this, Carlisle. You're gonna have to show me this in some either Urban Dictionary, Slang Dictionary, or even a female dictionary, because these days women make dictionaries. They make up definitions for any word that they want to say. But yeah, creepy is synonymous with a molester, or pedophile. Yes, I do understand that. That is how they try to equate it. But in reality, that is not a definition, because you wouldn't find that anywhere in a dictionary, really. Absolutely. Creepy is vague. It's left open to interpretation by whoever will have the ability to frame it in a certain way. And you, as a man, at the end of that particular situation, yes, very much so, just like what happened to Emmett Till. But she didn't, it's not that she felt creepy. She just, she was just racist and hateful, right? Because that was a boy. There's no way a 22, 23, 24-year-old woman would look at a 12-year-old boy standing in an elevator or wherever near her, and because he looks at her, she's going to feel creepy. A boy that young doesn't have the ability to even really amass the ideas and desires for sex and to have a sexual, like, imagery in his eyes, his face, the way he may look at you, may he the way he may frame his face or move his lips or do something to kind of intimate that I want to devour you, right? Little kids don't have that. And 50, 60, 70 years ago, little black kids definitely didn't have that kind of upbringing and desirability, especially towards a white woman. So that was just hateful, right? That was just something that she knew she could do and get away with. Who knows? She might have been in a bad mood. Maybe something happened with her and her dad or her boyfriend, and she just wanted somebody to pay. She may or may not thought it would go that far, but she knew he would get hurt. And then it just went, way overboard. But that's how, see, those are how things pan out in consequences that are unforeseen. And this is what I mean by so many women, they really can't see the long-term effects or consequences of what they're creating now and how men may have to adjust and live and move to put themselves in a position where they're least likely to find themselves entrapped, right? The point of this whole discussion is that shit can be absolutely. That is exactly the point. The point is that shit can be made up out of thin air, and whether it's true or not true, you can find yourself in a position where you can lose. And if you're a man who is building himself or is already established, how are you gonna how are you gonna what steps are you going to take to limit or remove yourself at completely from these type of potential risk factors? Timothy Blut, thank you for the $10 super chat. Sad to say, my brother, I've learned to move among these females in silence. I say very little to them. Absolutely right. And that's how men are going to have to move. Men are going to have to move in silence. And I wanted to put together a few video clips today, but I'm not too sharp yet of gathering a lot of clips. But I remember the sister a few months ago where she was talking about she and her friends, other very attractive young black women, were at a club or restaurant, and other black men were there, and none of them approached her. And uh, she was voicing a frustration that finding a man for a relationship is becoming more and more difficult, but finding a man just for sex, she could get that done in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Finding a man that will blow your back out, no problem. Finding the guy that will take a risk on approaching you for a relationship, not so much. And this is part of the dilemma that women will find themselves in, which is why the thumbnail today shows a glass cage with feminism and Me Too. And I didn't put all of the other uh, potential laws that can be affected, that can affect our society and men particularly. But women are going to find themselves literally in a glass house where they'll see men that they would like to have approach them, but because of the risk factor, men are going to be like, nah, it's not worth it. The juice is just not worth the squeeze because all the power will be in the woman's hands. And when you put all the power in one group hands and no recourse in the other group's hands, then you're at the mercy of someone's goodwill. Igbo, what's that? Quinu? Is that with a K or with a W? Igbo, Winu, or Canoe? As men, will be fed up with dealing with them or dealing with this issue. The thing is, the dynamic and the reality is that men will never stop dealing with women. It's part of our genetic makeup. We have to. We have an urge, just like they have a reproductive urge when they start to hit 30s. We also have that urge for the companionship and sexual contact with a woman. And men, especially who accomplish a lot in life, those are men that are conquerors and they have high drive, high success drive, and also high sexual drive. But those type of men, they will have to find a way to get around the situation. Also, about 6 months ago, I'm sure some of you may have heard about the new prenatal child support law that about 30 states in the United States are looking to pass. I haven't read anything recent about any states passing it yet. Not sure if Florida, I know Florida and Texas were both states that were reviewing and considering implementing those laws. For the average man, that's going to be a tough burden to bear. Because basically what they're saying in society today is that normally a woman who would be married to a man and they would be in a husband and wife relationship, prenatal care would be something that would be standard in that relationship. Either the man is making enough money to cover it, or you have insurance to cover it, or both. But now what they're trying to do is give women, unmarried women who wants to run around like whores and bang anybody, when she pop up pregnant, she could just name a guy. It's you. And now you have to provide prenatal care for a woman that's been running around banging dudes all over the state. And then 9 months later, when the baby is born, now you have to hire a lawyer and try to get proof that that baby is not yours via DNA. And we know some states don't give a shit about DNA. Once you're in the books, you're on the books as the father and you're paying child support, the state is going to want to keep you there because 9 times out of 10, women that move like this, they're going to select a guy that have the economics to be able to pay. Because the real daddy, who may be someone who may be less economically strong, capable, that guy, she don't want that guy because he's just for sex. He doesn't offer any future. He just got a good sex game. And unfortunately, in today's life, women have men in different type of categories that they deal with. Some men are just for sex and some men are just for money. And some men are just for entertainment or praise or, help them out with different things that they may need. Pay a bill here or there, take them out here or there. So this is also a potential law where women can use to extort men. I mean, that's something that's going on now, where women are extorting men. There are many men that have showed up being on child support for children that are not theirs. But now it's one thing being having a woman making an accusation that you're the father and you have to go to court to to answer a summons, and then maybe requesting DNA to prove if the child is yours or not. Now you don't even have the option, because most women are not going to take the necessary steps to do it, to do a fetal DNA test in that first 8 to 12 weeks to determine if the baby is yours or not. Most women will take the option, I'll wait until after the baby is born. But the financial consequences to the man who have to pay child support is going to be huge. That law really should be, that money should be put in some type of an escrow account. And that money should not go to the woman. It should be under an escrow account, and only after that man is proved to be the father of that child, then that money can be given to her in a lump sum. And whatever the government is going to take, they could take for whatever services they provided to her over that period of time. A woman should not just be able to get money from any man, especially if she's not having sex with that man and that man is not the father of the children. It's crazy. But that's our society, and that's where it's going. And these are the risks that more and more men will deal with. And it's endorsing reckless behavior. And we see how women are behaving. They don't really care. More and more women are coming out stating that, oh, yeah, I cheated on my boyfriend. I cheated on him with his brother, with his best friend. I got a train ran on me in high school or in college. All types of stuff. They didn't even have sex. Absolutely. In some cases, you don't even have sex. How? Okay. In this comment, finance man, you said men have to move wisely. How do you move wisely from this? How do you move wisely from a woman that you never even had sex with, being labeled that's the daddy? You may be a hardworking man, you're married, or you have a long-term relationship, you have a child with the woman you live with, and you live in the neighborhood with another chick that sees you get up every day, go to work. You drive to work, you take care of your child, you take care of your wife. She knows where you live. She might even know what you do. She might even know members of your family, and she can easily just go to court and say, he's the daddy, and then let you fight and prove that you're not. It's not just promoting degenerate behavior, Louis. It's different. It's legislating. It's legislation. It's putting into law things that can make women behave in this degenerate way that will have a consequential cost, not only on the men, but on the long term on society. Definitely is going to have a big cost on society. Now, we know growing up, no parent will give their child whatever they want, whatever they ask for. But it appears as though in society today, whatever a woman cry about or a group of women cry about that they feel or they think, society will give it to them. They'll make it a law, they'll make it a right, or they'll just give it to them because I don't know why. They will. So, what are the long term effects for these things for Black men, Asian men, white men, Latino men, Arab men? The long term effects is basically men who have something to lose will have to make different moves. And you could potentially see, because I think back in April of last year or May of last year, when I did that show on SYSBS men or high value men, that top 20% of men, what would happen? And I spoke about it just with regard to the Black community. But this is not just a Black community issue. This is a man's issue from whatever ethnicity group you may belong to. It's a Western issue. If that top 15, 20% income men leave the United States, what potentially will be the consequences in those societies? Because, I mean, looking at the recent blow up with Austin Holloman and the false accusations that are being labeled towards him as a predator, as a trafficker of women, of disrespecting women and using them for the sole pleasure of sex and nothing else, and making it look as though those women in those other countries are somehow mentally disabled and unable to make clear judgments on their own, and only Black women in America have the ability to make good judgments because they come from a country that have a higher standard of life. These types of false accusations, one, I think, like Finance Man said, is going to force men to go underground, to move more in silence. Yes, they'll still promote passport bros traveling to different countries, but the content as it pertains to speaking about women will become exclusive, private. And the content about the country and opportunities that are there are going to become the mainstay of the conversation. And I was looking at, well, why is it that they're coming after this young brother? I think the main problem with him is that he dispelled the metric. And I'm not talking about the matrix. I'm talking about the metric, a standard that has been applied. He's tall. He's not short and fat. He's good looking. He's not a dusty. He speaks well. He's got a good physical physique. He's young. He's not 45, 50 or older going overseas to try to get young girls. He has money. So all the things that normally Black women will say about Black men who travel, he dispelled that metric. He blew it right out of the water. And his influence is far reaching because he can reach young boys that are still in high school, 16, 17, 18. And he can also influence young men who are his age in their early 20s or late 20s and early 30s. So that's a very large and wide demographic of young men that are up and coming that he potentially could remove from out of the matrix. Now I'll use the matrix, from out of the matrix, which is the United States, and cause these men to look for other opportunities around the world somewhere else. That's where the fear is. And that's why it's important that he must be damaged. He must be taken down. It's better to sacrifice the one than to lose many. So they don't care about destroying this man's reputation, destroying his name, slandering him, economically ruining him for future opportunities. All that is irrelevant because there's a greater goal. How could we stop Black men from leaving? Even the Black men that they don't want. Now, I hear some women say, well, y'all don't have to say nothing. Just do what you're going to do. Why you have to publicize it? That's a lie. Because in reality, if Black men just moved, if all these men in the passport bros wasn't saying anything and they just left, they will be making a very similar complaint on the flip side. How come you didn't tell us? Why didn't you tell us what we need to do so we can make a change? So we could become the woman that you want. So we know. If we know we can make a change, that would be the spiel, right? Let me see. Renee Stevens. He's a dusty. He claims to be a barber and got what's that? An application loan for his barber business that paid $1 a month in rent. Then went overseas shortly. When his GoFundMe, he started for his travel and raised what, $500? Well, Renee, I guess maybe you haven't traveled because a ticket from the US or from South America to the Philippines will cost you close to $2,000. And whether or not he got a business loan and he got it only had to pay $1 a month. I lived in New York, and I remember back then in the 80s that they were selling brownstone buildings through the state of New York, which was uh, claimed by the states for taxes. People who owned the building but failed to pay their taxes over time, they were selling brownstones for $1. So, and people went in, bought those brownstones for $1, renovated them, and either flipped them. They had to keep them for at least, you had to keep it as a residence for 3 years. But you can rent it out and make a lot of money, or you can flip it after 3 years. So, regardless of how he was able to maneuver and make his money to launch his business, see, now we're criticizing men who have ingenuity to be able to make themselves money. You're the type of woman that no matter what a man would do for you, you would find some negative things that you would find displeasing. And you follow it up with saying, he's so good looking, but he got to go to multiple countries looking for women. Well, I think you don't understand what Passport Bros is all about. We're not looking for women only. We're opening up the world to Black men and showing them what other opportunities are available worldwide, both with beautiful women and socializing in different countries. Getting chased out of a country. Well, he got chased out of a country by Black women who slandered his name. And this is why, as Black men see this, they're going to take steps to make sure this don't happen to them. See, every time you sacrifice one Black man, 10,000 Black men will take steps to not let the same thing happen to them. Which is why Black women are building themselves a glass house. Because in the next 5 to 10 years, by 2030, Black men aren't going to approach you at all. They're going to act like you're ghosts. You're going to want a Black man to approach you, but he can't. He can't because you already have the law in place that if you change your mind, you could ruin him. You could ruin his reputation. I mean, it's already on the books that if a woman says yes to sex and you're having sex with her, and during the sexual intercourse, she says, stop. If you continue humping, that's rape or grape. So you guys have set yourselves up in such a trap because you can't control your emotions, because you don't know what you want from moment to moment. And because of these indecisions, you want men to pay for your inability to make sound decisions. Yet, so many women will say, oh, we're superior to men. We're smarter than men. We make more money than men. We're stronger than men, yada, yada, yada. But yet you can't even make a decision and hold yourself accountable to that decision. If a man and a woman are out drinking, having a good time at a bar, or wherever, at a party, and they go home together, if you feel some kind of way the next day or a few days later, you can revoke consent after the fact. The men can't revoke consent after the fact. You can't. Which means what you're really saying is that men are superior to you, both mentally, emotionally, physically, economically, in every bracket. but yet you run around with these false claims that you're better. That's false imagination. That's what Duster was talking about when he was trying to make the argument for arrogance. Let me read the rest of your comment. He's so good looking, but got to go to multiple countries looking for women, then getting chased out of the countries. Well, he moved to that country to live there. So he was going about the different countries. He did set a calendar in his community tab that he was going to visit 11 or 12 countries this year, of which he's already in one, right? Do you have the ability to travel to 12 countries this year yourself? Because for a broke dude that's not even a barber, that don't make any money, he definitely seems to be able to accomplish a lot with a little. So unless he's Jesus where he can multiply a dollar, he's a bad dude. Then getting slapped up by submissive women in the Philippines. Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Slapped up. In the Philippines, women can't be hitting men like that. That's not their cultural discipline on how women move in the Philippines. Now, maybe in America, you might do such a thing. Okay, finance man, what's the logic? The logic from where I stand is that y'all just going to take the same degeneracy to those poor countries in other countries, to those poor women in other countries. They'll get the same black man. Well, how do you explain 52% of black men who have no children in the United States? See, the degenerate men that you're talking about are probably the men that you socialize with. They can't afford to leave the country. Men with money that have options, they don't have degenerate behavior because they know that there are financial consequences that comes along with misbehaving. Men who are broke that travel in and out of jail, for them, going to jail is just a vacation. They take 2 years off, they're chill. They'll get some girl that's going to like them while they're in jail. And when they come out, they'll just bounce to her house and live with her and take advantage of her. So it seems to me that you speak from personal experience on the things that you know about. So continue to deal with those men, but don't lay the labels of the men that you're used to dealing with on men that you have no idea on how they live. Many people are calling Kevin Samuels gay and how much he hates women. Unfortunately, Kevin Samuels, rest in peace. Unfortunately, because of his passing, he was the last person that was really crying out to save the black community. Black men ain't looking to save the black community. I'm sure there's some, like, what's the guy named Umar? I don't remember his first name. Men like that, yes, they'll try to save the black community. But men who have choice and option and money and have skill and can travel, skills that are mobile, that are in tech, childless men can be degenerates too. Well, degenerate behavior, what do you call? Let me put that up there so we can. Okay, so a man with no children is a degenerate. What is a woman with 6 or 5 or 4 children by a man fathering each one of those child? What kind of woman is she? Is she a degenerate? And do you call women with multiple babies by multiple baby daddies? Do you refer to them as degenerate women? See, this is the thing. You have classification for men that you can't get. So you label them because the only men that you know are degenerate men. See, people speak from their experience. Like when I came into the space and I first heard about how difficult some men were going through trying to have relations with women, correction, with women. At first I thought it was just talk. But then as I remained in this space more, I started to see that from the mid to late 90s and into the 2000, more and more women have been raising young boys to be more female like. The universities have been bashing masculinity to make more and more men female like or submissive onto them. And it's been a psychological barrage. But from my life, where I came from, I don't have problems with women. Never did. And whether you were to refer to me as a degenerate or not, my life has not been that. So that would be something that you would just be using from your own experience and the men that have treated you in such a way that you go about the world labeling men that you don't know from the actual experience that you do know. But that's okay, because these are the men that will be leaving the very women like yourself. And when you find yourself in a situation where the only men that you have a choice at are the I can't even pronounce it now. The degenerates, that's all you will have. See, when a woman will have no more choice, then you're gonna cry. But right now, because you have choice, you're loud, you're boisterous, you're disrespectful, you're rude, you're insulting. Come on, Sage, you're supposed to be one side aggression only? Supposed to be or not be? What? Not sure if I'm reading. Supposed to be one side aggression only for modern women since 60 plus. I'm not trying to be one-sided in anything. I'm just trying to state a perspective that I see. Obviously, Sage Talk is a man. It's a man's channel. I talk to men. If women want to come, I don't have a problem with it. And wherever possible, I will engage a woman with some of her, her counterpoints. Not a problem. But there are some men who fall below the standard. I'm not speaking to those men, because the men who fall below the standards won't have the options to exercise whether they leave the country or where they may live to avoid the women that they don't want to have being around them. I'm talking to the men of the class that I've been exposed to for the past 30 something years of my life from business. I don't know about the life of the Pookie type guys. I didn't live that life. Now, whether I grew up with them when I was a teenager, that's too far back for me to reflect, because as a teenagers are not really big dealing with women. You're dealing with little kids. But as I grew up and I became a man and I started working and building myself up, the circle where I roll was with other successful men. There are many times the companies where I worked in engineering, I was the only black man. There were East Indians, there were Egyptians, there were South Koreans, there were Japanese, there were East Indians, there were men, there were white people. Matter of fact, most of the engineers that I worked with when I went out into the field was from the UK. And I made some really good friends. But I worked around professional, skilled, highly skilled people who made something out of themselves and had a certain standard of life in the way in which they carry themselves. So I could speak from that reference point when I speak about men. I can't speak about men who are slinging in the streets, misusing women, violent with women, having multiple babies by different women. I don't know men like that. I mean, I may know of them, but I don't know them in any real social interaction way. We don't go out and have drinks. They don't come over to my house for dinner. They don't invite me to their house because I don't know them. So, when Renee Stevens speak of those men, she's speaking of the men that she knows. She's not speaking of men such as myself or young men coming up that have aspirations to become successful or already successful or surpass my success that I once had, right? A Buddhist sage once said, "No man's happiness can be built upon the desires of another's unhappiness." Absolutely. But it seems like that's how women are moving. Women are moving in the world where by killing the happiness of one man, they become happy as a woman. So Dawn, you should look at that. And if you have conversations with other females, you should use that quote and ask them to explain that. Because I think that hit it right on the point. And that's what I'm trying to address. How women are trying to keep black men, black women specifically, to keep black men unhappy so that they can be happy. Because if they really didn't care about the men that were going overseas, it really wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if we had sex with 1 or 10. And there's no place on this planet where men don't seek women for sex. I don't care. If a man lives in New York and he flies down to Vegas and he hangs out and spend a weekend there and he meet women there and he take them back to his hotel, is that sexual trafficking? He lives in New York, but he's having sex with women in Nevada. Or he lives in California and he goes to Las Vegas, or he goes to New York, or he goes to Chicago. Does that mean because he goes to another state and have sex with a woman in that state that he's trafficking women? That's the same bullshit that's the bullshit argument they're trying to make, that because you go from one state or one country to a different country and you meet women and you enjoy the pleasures of women, somehow you are trafficking women. And they're using the most degrading, insulting, and in some cases, dangerous slander to call black men. And black men are not saying those things about black women. The only thing black men saying is, look, if you're not happy and you can't find a woman that you want in the United States, here's a country where you can come. That's it. That's all. But just for a black man to have the option to do something else, how dare you? Who the hell do you think you are? You're going to stay right here and you're going to pay my bills, and I'm not going to give you no coochie until I feel like it. You're going to have to take me out on 3 months worth of dates before I give you any. One thing I've found in my experience is that if a woman like you, within the first or second date, she's going to have sex with you. And that's in New York. That's been my experience. But then I come from a different age group, right? I left the U.S. in 2006. So I can speak from that time frame. When I met a woman, if I didn't have sex with her within the first 2 dates, I chucked her to the curb, because that means she don't like me. Because when I go out to nice places. Like I remember a girl that I met and I took her out. We went to this restaurant called Bombay. It's an Indian restaurant right around the corner from the Sheraton Hotel, right off of, I think that's 7th Avenue or Broadway, 51st Street. Sheraton's on 52nd Street. And the first date, usually I would have a driver take me around the city when I'm on a date or hanging out. But she was like, no, let's take the train. She was real cool. And so, we walked downtown. We walked downtown in Broadway area, the movie district, after we finished dinner. And then when we took the train home around 10 o'clock, I was taking her home. She's looking at me in the subway. I think we're at 14th Street transferring. And she's looking at me and she says, you got real nice lips. They're kissable lips. She said, can I kiss them? I'm like, sure. She gave me a kiss. She licked her lips and she goes, they taste nice. So I said, can I taste yours? And I give her a kiss back, and we were laughing and having a good time. But when I took her home, I spent the night. We had a good time. If a woman wants you, she's going to have sex with you in a very short period of time. If a woman is not interested in you, she's going to string you on and string you on and string you on until either you get pissed off or she finally, make up her mind, okay, I'm going to give him some. But I don't play those games. I don't, if a woman's, I had a girl, actually, she became my girlfriend too, right? I took her out, we were dating for like maybe a month or so. And then I took her to my house and I pushed up and she didn't give me none. I threw her out my house. Bam, I slammed the door so hard, damn near the building shape. And if you know New York have those metal doors that are fireproof doors, fireproof framing, cinder blocks and bricks. That ain't supposed to shake. And I told her, don't come back until you're ready to have sex with me. I didn't call her. I did not hear from her for a month. That was in June of 19, I'm not going to give you the exact date, but June. She came back on July 4th. And I lived in a doorman building. I always lived in, upper class type building, so I have privacy. And when the doorman rang me and said, hey, you have a guest, I asked him who. He told me. I said, let her up. When she came upstairs. She went in the bathroom. She did whatever she had to do. She came back out. She grabbed me by the hand and we went into the bedroom. And she became my girlfriend. But I didn't play games with her. Because if a woman ain't into you, she ain't into you. Ain't nothing you could do. And she ain't gonna give you no sympathy sex. If she ain't into you, in the end, when you bitch about it, you know what she's gonna say? Well, you didn't have to do that. I thought you were just being nice. Women say dumb shit like that. Or in the end, she'll say, well, you give me creepy vibes. You give me creepy vibes, right? You kind of a creepy dude. So I changed my mind. No, she never wanted you. You just look like you may have had some money. You dress nice. You have a decent car. And she see you moving about town. And you know what? She figured, you know what? He could take me out and buy me a few things for a while. And then when I'm done, bounce. The one you booted out strong and independent? No, she wasn't strong and independent. Matter of fact, she was from St. Lucia, really beautiful sister. She was raised in France. She spoke French and English. And she was trained as a chef. And we had a 5-year relationship. So, very educated young woman. But she wasn't a strong and independent type. She was probably more of a, she wasn't a virgin, but she was the type, I guess, she wanted to keep her body count low, right? But because back then these type of conversations wasn't really being had and she wasn't really being expressive, I just took it as though, maybe she was just trying to play me. So I was like, you know what? This ain't gonna happen. If you like me, we're gonna get together. If you don't like me like that, no problem. Nothing lost. You could go about your way. I go about my way. But it took her a month before she came back. And I never called her and she never called me. But it gave her time to think and really decide, hey, do I really like this guy or I don't like this guy? And if a woman like you and she's not a virgin, she's had sex before, there's no reason she's not going to have sex with you if she like you. If she don't like you, she will probably never have sex with you no matter what you do, no matter where you take her, no matter what gifts you buy her, nada. So I don't waste my time with women that are not interested in me. I don't do long 3-month dating. I've never done that in my life. Why? I don't see the purpose. I mean, if I dated a woman and she said she was a virgin and she was waiting to get married before she had sex, if she was the type of woman that after I got to know her, I saw her as a wife and I said getting to know her family, maybe some of her friends, seeing what kind of life she has with a mother and a father. And if I determined that, you know what, she would make a good wife, then I would pursue that. And then I would not have sex with her until we became husband and wife because she set that as a standard for herself. But if a woman don't have no standards and she just screw because she has a feeling, then either she has the feeling with me or she don't have the feeling with me because she had the feeling with somebody. She had the feeling with somebody. And I'm not going to criticize a woman for who she has sex with, whether the guy is a good dude or not a good dude. That's not I don't do that. I don't care. But if I'm not the guy you want to have sex with, then don't string me along. And I've been fortunate in life where I mean, I grew up in the hood and I grew up in a different time where women were easy to deal with. Women, if they like you, they hung out with you. They, you know, because they have desires just like you have desires. So it wasn't a big deal. And I'm fortunate that I know how to speak to women. I'm not uncomfortable around women. More times than not, women have told me I give them player vibes, and I'm not a player at all. I have friends that are they're far more silver tongued than me when it comes to rapping to chicks. It's just that I have a certain personality and sensibility and the way I dress and the way I carry myself. A woman see a man that is very comfortable around among women and he knows how to talk and he socialized in upscale places that she just figured, this guy, he meets a lot of women. And that's true. I have, but I don't sex every woman I meet. I have friends that every woman they meet, they try to bang them down. Every woman I meet, I don't try to bang them down because some waters are poisonous. And just because some women may look attractive, I'll give you a perfect example, right? This was probably back in, when was this? 80. This was the early 80s because I was still in college at the time. There was a girl who her mother knew my mother when I was growing up. And her brother and I had the same name. So a lot of times when her mother is calling her son out of the window, sometimes I'm looking to see if she's calling me. But her mother used to make very good pies, and my mother used to make good rice and beans and potato salad. So on Sundays, they would exchange stuff. So sometimes I'll take uh, the rice and beans and potato salad to her family, and her mom will give me a pie or half of a pie to bring to my mom. Years later, or by the time I was in college and she grew up and she went into the military, one day I ran up into on a train or wherever in New York, and we started talking and we exchanged numbers and we kind of like started dating. But at the time, I was living with a cousin of mine, and we shared the apartment together out in Brooklyn. And I had a little cousin. She had a daughter, and her daughter was like she was in love with me. And every time I would come home and I go into my room, she would bust my door. She would just bust into my door and jump on my bed because I had a really big bed, a king size bed. So it took up a lot of space. It wasn't too much room other than for a dresser, a mirror, and a few things, right? But I had French doors. So the doors wasn't really to keep people out. It was just for privacy. So because my little niece would always be busting into my room, whenever this girl came over to see me, we'd be laying in the bed, but we'll be cuddling, kissing, or touching, or I'll try to sneak, you know, sucking on the boobs. I mean, I'm like 20, 21 or 20 years old. I was young, right? And we never had sex. And we were seeing each other for about 2 months. But I never got to the point where the house was empty and I could have gone there. There was always somebody at home when she came over. One Sunday, her mother called and my cousin picked up the phone. And my cousin and that woman had a conversation. And then when my cousin hung up the phone, she said to me, Lee, that your girlfriend's mother or that girl's mother called up and said, yada, 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 you got her pregnant. I'm like, what? She's like, you got that girl pregnant. I said, no, we never had sex. And even my cousin, a female, she said to me, y'all always in that room locked up? That door is always closed. I'm sure you did. I'm like, no, I didn't. So I said, give me the number. I called her back. Back then he had, that caller ID, return call, whatnot, star 89 or whatever it was, star 66. So I called her mother back and I said, I'm going to be there. I'll see you in about 2 hours because she lived up on East Tremont 178, Bronx. So I went to her house that same day. It was a Sunday. And when she opened the door, I looked at her and I said, you're going to have to tell your mother what happened because you and I haven't had sex yet. We went in the kitchen. So her and I are sitting in the kitchen waiting for her mom to come in. And when her mom came in and sat down and her mom pressed her, it was her mother's boyfriend. She was pregnant by her mother's boyfriend. As soon as she said that, I got right up, I walked out the house, and I left. And it's funny because sometimes Like sometimes I never got the opportunity to push up and have sex with some chick, and then later on some shit come out later. So it's like I never really press myself when it comes to having sex with women because I have sex on my terms. Even though if the woman is in my house and she's in my bed, she already want to have sex with me. So I know that. So I'm not always pressed that I have to bang everything every minute, every time, whenever. But that was a situation where if I had had sex with this girl, I would have been caught up because back then in the late 70s, early 80s, DNA was not a big thing, and even those who can afford it, it was expensive. It was like maybe $2,000 just for a test, or 1,600. Let me see what Dale Matthews exactly. When a woman like you, she will make it very clear with her words and her actions. If she's on the fence about you, I would say, or not, then you'll be jumping through hoops. The thing is, we know that most men, when they're attracted to a woman, they already know they want to have sex with her. Most women, they know immediately also if they will give it to you. So mostly, all a man could do is talk himself out of the draws when he start talking to the woman, because the woman already know once she engaged with you that she already decide he could get this. So all you could do is do something or say something that'll make her like kind of look back at you kind of weird and say, you know what? Nah, not sure if I want to go there with him, right? May need to take a little more time or change your mind altogether. But the point is, a woman that wants to be with a man physically, that decision is made just as quick as we make it. Carlisle, she probably knew she was pregnant already, Lee. And that's the thing, bro. So true. That is so true. She probably knew she was already pregnant. And she was laying, trying to get me to step up in that zone. And then boom. Then I would have been trapped on child support for 21 years, paying off for a kid that is not mine. And then she would have been banging this guy anyway because she got his kid. And women are fine. Women have an attachment to men that they have children with. It's just that simple. Using me as an excuse. Absolutely. She definitely was using me. But women, and see, that's one of the things. That's why, when some men say that women are like children, no, I don't agree with that because women are cunning. Women could play stupid like they don't know, but women can also set you up. Children don't set you up. Now, children can manipulate, but they're usually manipulating for what they want, which is candy, going somewhere with their friends, going to a party, trying to get mom and dad to say yes. That's where kids manipulate. Or they're trying to get some new pair of sneakers, a new school bag, or something that's going to make them look G with their friends. Kids manipulate for very simple things. That type of manipulation can ruin a man's life. Dale, I agree, Lee. Being aware of female nature is important, and that's why the manosphere and what we do here is so important because women talk amongst each other, gossiping and whatnot. They compare notes. Men, we have never really been the type that compare notes in terms of how women move because we have a big ego. So we want to think that we are better than other men at being able to get women. So we never really compared notes. But the manosphere now in this whole YouTube space has really opened up a wide conversation between men to speak about their encounters and their experiences with women from all different walks of life. Women that are broke, women that are professionals, and women that are, in some cases, maybe even wealthy. Women that are highly educated and women that are not so educated. Women that come from all walks of life. And what men are starting to notice is that the selfishness of how women move, particularly Black women, they will say and do anything to discredit a Black man, whether they want him or don't want him, just so he doesn't have options. Because if he have options, that might catch on. Somebody else may think I could do that. And if more and more men get the idea that, hey, I have other options, then that would limit Black women's options. So it's not necessarily always about you, the individual. It's about the gynocracy, the whole, on maintaining the control and power over Black men's choices and Black men's options. Give me a few minutes, Definite G. I see you there. I'm going to bring you up in a minute, right? Let me see if there was something else that I wanted to add. Oh, yes, this is the big part that I think either whether it's Renee or any of these women who are speaking negatively towards passport bros. One of the things that I think they're missing is that, or maybe they know, but they're not saying, is that Black men are making investment overseas. They're opening bars, they're opening clubs, they're opening restaurants, they're opening hotels, they're investing in condominiums. Matter of fact, I'm not going to say who is in charge of it right now, but there's a new group setting up that is looking to raise about $500,000 to build to invest in a super big condominium construction. I'm not going to say which country; it's none of your business, right? But black men are moving and they're investing. And one of the things that you're not going to see happen, these countries that are benefiting from Black men's money, millions and millions of pesos coming into the country through the exchange rate of the US dollar, those countries are going to benefit from that. Not only that, the poverty in their countries are going to go down because of the investments and the women that these men will be choosing as wives because or girlfriends because the men there have already decided they don't want those women. Or if they already have a child with them, they're not supporting the woman and the child. So there are many different things with regard to how these countries will benefit from the Black dollar. And the more I think Black women try to shame Black men, the shaming tactics, that's been neutralized. That ain't gonna work no more. Black men are not taking shaming tactics from Black women, nor from the simp Black men who are their simp enforcers. We really don't give a damn about their opinions or your opinions. I've always lived a life that I really don't give a shit about nobody's opinion anyway. I mean, I became a man at 17, and when I moved out of my mother's house at 19, I never looked back. I've never had to go back to live with my mom because of bad decisions I've made in life. I've been on my own and I've lived a very good life, and I've got a lot of experience behind it. And for the degree to what I can add to this space to help Black men be more positive and assertive and decisive, I'll try and contribute what I can. I mean, I know when I packed up and I went to Africa the first time and my family found out I was there, they were like, "What the hell are you doing all the way over there? How come you didn't tell us?" I'm like, "I just made up my mind and I decided to go." See, when you're a man with that level of independent thought and action, that type of behavior threatens people. When I packed up and decided to come and move to Central America, even some of my closest male friends, it was like, "Yo, man, you walking away from all your friends, this, that. How do you do that?" The fact that Austin Holloman at 23 can walk away from his family, his friends, any career opportunities he was building in the United States because he saw an opportunity in another country where he could potentially not only find happiness and build a family that he may want sometime in the future, obviously not right now because he's too young, but maybe by the time he's 30 or 32, he'll be in a better financial state and be in a better mind where building a family might be something that he's looking at, but where he can have better experiences and build quality relationships with women in the meantime and broaden his life experience. For him to be able to do that really says a lot about the independence of mind, the self-assuredness, and the lack of no fear. Because many times what hold men back from traveling is fear. They don't know anybody in those countries. They don't speak the language in those countries. They don't understand the cultures in those countries. And there's no economic opportunities in those countries. Many men, because of those things, and obviously when they talk to their family members are going to talk you out of opportunities out of life in life simply because they don't see what you see. And because they don't see what you see, they will put their fears on you. And if you give it too much consideration, you'll stay right there. You'll never move. Akoba Collins, good afternoon, sir. How are you? Said, you don't have to respond to losers like Renee Stevens. It's not so much that I'm responding to her. I'm using her as an example to really edify men in the chat that how women will speak from their own experience. So she's speaking of the men that she knows and that she has been with, and she's applying that to other men to degrade other men who are on much higher level, who have been disciplined. It's like a man that is disciplined to not have children all around with a bunch of different women. For some reason, he's a degenerate, or he could be. So he's disciplined in one area, but he lacks no discipline in the other. See, that's how crazy women think. Because women that move with their emotions, one minute they seem to be doing things the right way, and the next minute you see her acting like a hoe. That's how women move, but men don't move that way. If a man is a bum, he's always going to be a bum until something happens in his life to make him make a change. And that takes discipline to make changes, to reform your life and perspective. Most men don't just wake up and say, I'm a change, and do so. Because it means everything around you have to change. Your circle, your associations, your friends, where you work, everything has to change. But because she thinks like a woman, she can easily toss things out like that. But because I'm so experienced, I could take her feeble words and I can spin it and I can show not only her ignorance and her bias, but I can also open up an understanding for other brothers so they don't get caught up in that type of thinking. Appreciate it though. Marcus Evans, thanks for the super chat, my brother. What up, OG? I'm good. I'm hanging in there, man. I believe it's time to destroy the glass house. No, leave him trapped right in there. No, don't destroy it. I like the way JR did the thumbnail, because you saw women already trapped inside trying to look out, but then you saw women that are going in. That's the next generation of feminists that are going in. It's like that old raid combat roach motel. Roach check in, but they don't check out. So yeah, women that think like her, that are limited minded, they will always just deal with the class of men that they're used to. She's a low class woman and she chooses low class men, and because of that, she tried to project the classes of men that she's been experiencing on others, which is far from the truth. And it's a way of how can I say? It's a way of trying to paint an image of you that is less. And if you're a man that is emotional and you pay attention to other people's psychological manipulation, it could get you trapped. And this is what I was trying to tell Dusto last week about all manipulation is not negative. See, I use manipulation a lot, and I use manipulation against people like that because I use manipulation as a defensive tactic, not as an offensive tactic, because I'm very straightforward. I tell women what I'm looking for, what I want. I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older. When I was younger, I was a little bit more rough around the edges, and sometimes women would be like, damn, why you got to be so hard? Why you got to talk to me like that? And then you have to take a step back and clean it up, right? But now, I'm suave. I'm sophisticated. I know how to move. My vocabulary is well over 15 to 20,000 words. So I know how to talk to women, men, business, whatever. So it's not an issue for me when I approach a female. And if you have a certain level of confidence, there's sometimes you don't really have to say much to a woman, especially if you're hanging out in a place, you've been drinking, you're talking, she's with her friends and you're with your friends and you make eye contact. If it's 12 o'clock already and it's a work weeknight, you could just walk up to her, grab her hand, say, hey, what's up? And say, hey, you want to get out of here? Let's go someplace else where we can talk. Once you get her out of that place and she's willing to come with you, boom. I had like 4 places downtown once I pull a woman out of a spot where I would take them. The Millennium, which had a really nice lounge, the W Hotel, which there are two. There's one on the west side, 47th Street, and there's one on the east side. I forgot where that was, 51st, somewhere in that area, Lexington Avenue. And then there was the Soho Grand or the Tribeca Grand. Those were the main 4 hotels and social places where I hung out. So I would take the girl to the lounge. We'll sit there at the bar or in the cafe area, have something to eat, maybe or appetizer, or just chill, just continue the conversation. And then we'll say, you know what? If you ain't got nothing to do, let's get a room. If she say no, we'll make a date for another time. If she say sure, we bounce. But sometimes you don't really have to have a long conversation with a person to as grown adults, right? If she's 25 or 30, she know what she want. If you 30 or 35 or 40, you know what you want. The mere fact that you approach her, you're interested. If I'm now low class with the PhD, some of the most educated women are low class because they choose Big Dick Rodney. Wasn't there a woman in Chicago, I'm sorry, in Atlanta last year that wound up getting killed by a Pookie boyfriend and she was an attorney? So don't tell me because you got a PhD. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. The girl that Derek Jackson had that affair with, she was a doctor. She would come out of surgery, wash up, and go give him head in the car. What are you talking about? I've dated at least 3 attorneys. Just because they got a degree don't make them smart in terms of making good choices. But I'll read your statement. If I'm low class with a PhD and 6-figure career, then what does that make the vast majority of BM black men who have no degree and earn less than 50,000? They're just average men. That's what they are. They're average income men. But you could be an average income person with good character. And you could be a person that is educated with a lot of money and just disrespectful, rude, and nasty. Because the comments that you stated, you didn't give black men any benefit of the doubt. You immediately tried to slander men that you don't even know in a space that you don't even understand yet. So you didn't come in with an intention to learn something and then maybe make an educated statement. You came in with an agenda that you've always had because of your dislike towards black men, and you just use your education to hurt. So, matter of fact, the most famous soundbite that Kevin Samuel had on his soundbox was, "I'm a PhD." That was the most famous soundbite that Kevin Samuels had. "I'm a PhD." And the way you spoke in this chat today, I wouldn't be surprised if you're not the same person. And if you're not, then you're cut from the same cloth, right? Anyhow, Alcoba Collins, how are you, sir? You can't be a PhD holder with a 6-figure job and still be a troll. Yes, she can. See, that's the thing. That's the thing, Alcoba. She could be a troll because mentally she's a troll. You know, a lot of times women get degrees. The degrees is not for them to use the knowledge to better themselves or the community. It's for selfish pride, for them to be able to have one-upmanship and say that they're better than you. That's what it's all about. Let's even imagine you are what you claim to be, or what value are you to a man with all you've mentioned because you seem lonely. Well, I'm not going to say she's lonely. I don't know if she's lonely, but I know one thing: she has a disdain for black men. And definitely for a young man that's the age of 23, to slander a young man that young shows that she has no respect for black men. Because a young man that age is just starting to build up his life. Slander me. I've been around the world. I've been to about 13, 14, 15 countries. I've lived in 3 or 4 different countries. I've lived in 4 states in the United States. I've been a millionaire and I lost it all. Slander me. Slander a man that can take it. Don't slander a boy that's just coming out into the world and try to cut his legs under him from underneath him, fuck up his head to try to make him double think everything he wants to say, that he wants to think and do and accomplish, have doubts. Attack a man like me who is, you're a PhD. That would mean you have to be at least 37 or 38 years old or maybe older. Why go after a 23-year-old man? Speak to a grown man like myself, and then you and I can have a conversation. And if you're interested, I'll be more than happy to bring you up on the panel. You would have to come on camera because that's a requirement for this network, but we could have that conversation. And I will be respectful to you because if you have watched my show more than just today, I am never disrespectful to the men or the women in this chat. Because number one, I'm trying to raise the dialogue and the way in which Black people communicate one to another. And with that, let me go ahead and bring you up. Definite G, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Long time no see, Mr. Lee.
Okay, likewise. How you been?
Yeah, getting stuff together and just handling business. Oh,
I'm sorry,
can you
say
hear
it
me?
again. No, I didn't quite hear you.
Oh yeah, I'm just, handling business and, getting my stuff together, the usual.
Okay, absolutely. So, I mean, what did you have to say with regard to the topic, with regard to Black women building themselves a glass house of laws that in the near future, let's say by 2030, 2035, they will find themselves in a desert by themselves with no men, at least not the men that they would like to have by their side. Men who are accomplished, successful, economically well established, educated, and are world travelers.
Well, I mean, that's their fault. It just proves that, women cannot see past their own nose. They wanted all this equality, they wanted all this, equal rights, but not really looking at the long-term effects of what that's going to entail.
Well,
Seeing
I'm not
that,
speaking about equal rights. Let me correct you. I'm not speaking about equal rights. I'm talking about putting into law the feelings of women. Catcalling is a feeling. When a man
mm,
says, "Hey, baby, you look good. I like that dress you're wearing. Nice legs. Oh, beautiful lips. I like to get to know you." That's a feeling. Now, if the man is 6'4", good looking, dressed well, stepping out of a nice car or whatever, or getting into a nice car, and she's attracted to him, that cat call is acceptable. But if the guy is short, maybe dark skin, may not be handsome, maybe driving a Toyota or something, I don't know.
mm.
But if she doesn't find him impressionable enough, then she could literally take him to court
So what I
because
think
she
about
can
that,
claim that he was harassing her. So these are the things that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about real substantive laws with regard to the equity between men and women in society. I'm talking about the legislation of emotions, things that from one woman to the next, the comfortability or the lack thereof in terms how she may feel can change from woman to woman. Laws should not be based on that.
yeah, well, yeah, it should never be based on that. It should be based on the betterment of the society or the nation. But legislating those types of things, it's one,
Uh-huh.
unnecessary. I mean, it's just like, why would you do that? Like, there's more important things that can be solved in politics and legislation than, people's how people date. I get that, you want to have some sort of level of protection when it comes to the interactions between men and women. I understand that, but going that far and really like not understanding the broader, perspective of how men are supposed to interact with, women or women to men, and just being just that, you know, nitpicky on how we're supposed to interact with each other, that's a bit unnecessary because again, women are just their emotions change almost every minute. Like, one woman will be, you will walk up to her, you might think that she's into you when you finally talk to her, and now she's over here playing games all of a sudden. So it's like, why would you ever want to legislate something that's so, volatile, that goes up and down, like just from moment to moment? Like, it makes no sense.
That's true. Let me address Miss Stevens again. She says, you can't be serious. You get a bachelor's at 21. No, a bachelor's is a 4 year degree. If you go into college in September at 18 years old, you'll get out in June at the age of 22, depending on when your birthday falls. With regard to a PhD, depending on the program you take, let's just say it's a 3 year program that you have stated there. Then 25, 26. If you're fast, you'll get out at 21, like you stated. But you would have to have worked some time before you eclipse 100,000. I remember I dated an attorney who worked in the district who worked in the district attorney's office in New York, and she was about 24, 25, and she was only making about 70 something thousand a year, and she was already, she didn't have a PhD, but she had a law degree, and she hadn't eclipsed 100,000 yet, and that was New York. And this was, I think, either 98 or 99, around that time, right? So it'll take you a good 3 to 5 years to eclipse 100,000, depending on the state where you are and depending on the profession in which you're in. But very few people come right out of the university and are making 100 grand right when they start their job. So I gave you some time to have had some experience in life, to have grown, and to have worked. And the fact that you use that you have a PhD, then that means you're a seasoned person. You're just not a young jock just coming out of school. That you have a seasoned experience about life. Now, if you're going to say that you're just 25 years old and you don't know nothing, then say that. Then I would, I would, I would not retract, but I would modify my comment, right? But then I would be hard pressed to believe that you just came out of the university and you're making 100 grand, unless you're willing to state what your career is, and I can find that out immediately, right? But one of the reasons also is that mostly when you find women that have such a venomous uh, opinion about black men, especially a young man like him, it's usually women that are much older. It's not women who are young, like 25, 26, 24, not like the age that she's, posting. It's usually women who are past 35. And I gave her grace because I said 37. I really wanted to say about 43, right? But I was kind of trying to shoot for the middle, some middle ground. Uh, Anything else you wanted to add to the conversation?
Well, yeah, I mean, my first point, I wasn't really talking about equality. I was talking about how women, like based on what you said and the statistics of what's going to happen in the future, how a lot of women in my generation is going to, 43% of them is going to be, single and childless. It just shows that, with women trying to fight for all of this, legislation, that they can't see the bigger picture of what they created. Like you said, men are going to be on the defense, like going forward, if more of these laws, these, unnecessary laws start to be put in place, that dudes aren't going to be, really incentivized or even encouraged to want to even interact with women in damn near any capacity because of how much the system put men at the back foot. But I also, there was another point that I wanted to say with
Sure.
regards to what you said about how your interactions with women, um, like you said, I think it's uh, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna shout like I'm give credit where credit is due. Rollo Tomas, he said this one thing in his book. He said that the most fearful thing and also the most attractive thing about a man is, like, to women, is a man that knows and understands his own value. When a man understands what makes him attractive to women, that's kind of also fearful at the same time attractive, because okay, he knows what he's doing, but also he knows he'll have the ability to take advantage of it. So now that's one less dude that she can manipulate. That's one less dude that she can get a free meal out of. And that's one less dude that she can bamboozle 20 years down the line if he marries her because he
Well,
understands what makes him
well,
attractive to her. So, and then he uses it to his
well,
advantage.
men could be accomplished economically, but that doesn't mean that they're red pill minded to understand the behaviors of women. Because there are a lot of men, as
Yeah.
we can see in this space, that still cape for a lot of females,
Hmm.
especially older females, not even the younger, not the younger women, but the older women that have children that have kind of like already gave up a good portion of their life and experience with men that they may or may not have wanted to be with or wanted to be with, but it didn't work out. So just because a man may have the economic value of his worth doesn't necessarily always mean that he understands the dynamics of how women move in society and how the gynocracy of both the gynocracy and how feminism coupled with that and the modernization of what women say they desire,
Hmm.
how those things come
Yeah.
together, right? So
Hmm.
there's a lot of men that still don't understand that or even believe it, right? There
Hmm.
are women that are men right now that are still sacrificing their lives for women that they don't know. A couple of months ago, we just had a guy got killed coming out of an elevator holding the door for 4 or 5 women and wound up getting killed by another guy because the guy was like, yo, man, fuck these bitches. I don't stop me from getting on the elevator. What makes them more important
Hmm.
than me? If we have equal rights, they should not have to go before me. See, and some
Hmm.
men are like, just because the man may not be a professional and he may be a hood dude, he still understands the fact that look, we're in an equal society now, and because we're in an equal society, they're not giving women the respect that women's once had. They're treating women equally like men. You don't get no door open for you. You don't get no chair pulled out for you. If somebody's whipping your ass in the street, we don't know if that's your husband, your boyfriend, or a stranger. We ain't jumping in to save you. We're not being Captain Saberho. The best the man might
Men
do
have
is
died
make a
because
phone
of that
call
too. Yeah.
and call the police. Just a few months
Hmm.
ago, a woman got raped on a subway. What is that in Philadelphia? In Philly? And people just sat there and watched. Women and men sat there and watched. Because men are like, you know what? It ain't my business. And more as men take those positions, women are going to find themselves in a very precarious situation because they want men to be traditional to protect a strange woman that you don't know. You're supposed to risk your life for that person, but that person wouldn't give you the time of day, wouldn't even smile at you if you said hello and passed them down the street.
Hmm.
So that is the hypocrisy in the way women are moving and making demands on men, and uh, men are recalibrating and say, "Okay, nah, I'm not falling for that. You're not going to play me. My emotions are disconnected from the things that you once used to use upon me, right? You can't use
Hmm.
my mother. You know, your mother is black, your sister is black, your auntie is black. That don't work anymore. That may work on some men, but on others, other men are just they just close their ears and keep stepping. Right. Perfect. Finance
And
man, hit it right on the head. Call the cops.
yeah,
If you're in a situation, call the cops. You can't say you don't need no man, but then when you find yourself in a situation, you want a random man to just step in and protect you? A random man that on any other given day and time, you wouldn't give him the time of day, right?
exactly.
So, but it even goes further than that. When men have no choice, men make choices for themselves. It's just that simple. And why I say women are putting themselves in a glass house is because men are the pursuers for relationship. Women are the gatekeepers of sexual relationship. But unless a man push up on you, who you gonna give the sex to? And if the men who are of the higher caliber in society deemed it too risky economically and for your own reputation to deal with American women, black, white, Latino, or otherwise, the planet is a big place, man. The planet is a big place. And many black people, because we have been in America for so long and have been subjugated for so long, many of us believe that we have no hope. And because our women have taken the lead in so long, and once upon a time protecting young black men during slavery to not have their sons be killed or sold off, that have turned into, I own you.
Hmm.
And if I
Exactly.
can't have you, nobody will. I'll destroy your life before I let you go someplace else and be happy. I'll destroy your life. I'll destroy your reputation. I'll make sure no woman anywhere want you. But you see, that's kind of hard because the CDC report says that black men are the most attentive fathers amongst all men in the United States. So the statistics don't match the rhetoric. More and more and more. And because of the way women are coming at black men, and particularly women such as Miss Stevens, who can't even give a black man the benefit of the doubt before knowing the facts, immediately destroy him. And this is an educated woman. Can you imagine the women who are uneducated, how they move with black men? She's an educated woman. She should have shut her mouth on that part. But you see, I touched her ego.
Yeah. And
I
also,
touched her
Mr. Lee.
ego. So she had to go and play her card. See that if you play good
Mhm.
poker teaches you how to misdirect people so they can show what their real intentions are. So she had to prove to me that what? She's an educated woman. She's a smart woman. She's make money. But what she really did was she showed us how foolish she really is. Just because not, you know what I find is that many people are good at book knowledge, but when it comes to life knowledge, they're poor. They make poor decisions. But from an intellectual standpoint, they can learn complex things. And what she proved is that she can learn complex things, but she makes poor judgments because she doesn't know how to make assessments. She doesn't wait until she has all the facts or more facts than rumor to form an opinion. She forms an opinion recklessly. And that's how most black women move. That's why they tell on themselves all the time. And the more educated they are, the more they tell on themselves because their ego and their money is front and center. They lead with that. Like that's important to any man. The only man that's important to is a man that's broke because all he got to give you is that D game. You're going to pay for his PlayStation. You're going to give me a car to drive. You're going to buy his clothes, his new sneakers from, whoever, Kyrie Irving's or LeBron James or whoever got some new sneakers coming out, you're going to be paying for that because you don't need nothing from a man. So you choose the man that you want, and the man that you choose is the man with the dick game because the guy that's making up as much or more money than you, he don't have that kind of time for you. Not only that, he's going to regulate you, and you don't want nobody telling you nothing. And because of that, the only men you choose are men of low degree, men that has nothing really to offer
The
you
men the men they can
or offer
control. Yeah.
a good woman, right? Carlisle Tom Lee, a lot of uneducated women are way more submissive than what we see up here or up on this panel in this space. Well, I think one of the things too is that, and I hear they speak about women in third world countries who are uneducated. You should travel to a third world country to see how educated so many women are. I used to teach in a third world country. And the school where I taught, the parents of these children were wealthy parents. And these children are smart and well educated. Anybody from the mayor's son to the chief of police, the deputy, everywhere. Managers of banks. I mean, when I move throughout the city, people know me that I don't even know because I taught their child and I didn't even meet them as a parent. I may have met the mother, but not the father. I may have met the father, but not the mother, or the aunt, or some other family member, but they know who I am. They call me by name. I walk down the street every day and people are calling me, hey, maestro, ¿cómo está? Buenos días. And I respond, but I'm looking at the face and I'm like, I don't remember that face, right? But I think so often, because America has had such a lofty status globally and a standard of life that have been envied by many, I think many people believe that one, America still is at the standard that it once had, which it's not. Definitely not on education, definitely not on medical, and definitely not necessarily. Well, the economics we still triumphed over most countries, right? But there are many other value metrics that other countries surpass the United States in. And when you travel to these other countries, you'd be surprised. You could meet a woman that's a PhD like her, and the humbleness in that woman will blow you away. Whereas in the United States, you meet a woman with a PhD like her, and the disdain that she has for a man, it oozes out of her pores. You can smell it, and it's a rancid scent. And it's unfortunate because she don't have to be that way. She chooses to be that way. And these are some of the things that black men with options are starting to realize. And once you travel outside, like when I came to this country, it was in 2005. I had, I don't know, more than 200 and something hours when I was with Wells Fargo. And my manager came to me and said, Lee, next year we're not going to pay you for all this vacation time. You're going to need to take a vacation. She says, take a vacation. So in December, I decided, what the hell? And a friend of mine, she was traveling, and she said, "Yeah, you want to travel with me?" She's taking a month. I had more than a month vacation, so I said, "Okay, cool." So I booked my vacation, and I traveled to 6 countries. Her and I, she's my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, and we traveled to 6 countries. And when I came to this country, and when I went to the beach, I fell in love with this country that day. When I went back to the U.S., I was living in Sacramento at the time. I went back and I started to lay my plans that I was going to leave in a year. Now, most company in the US, when you put in your resignation that you're leaving and you give them your 2 weeks, you leave that Friday. They didn't do that. They said, Lee, we would like for you to stay with us up until the week before you leave, which was September. And I put in my resignation in August. My boss and the regional manager, they tried to get me to stay, but then I'd already made up my mind. But they say, well, if you could, stay an extra month till you're ready to leave, so we can, find somebody to replace you in the meantime, right? And I stayed, and then I left when a week before I was supposed to actually make my trip. But the decision was that it's just like what Austin said. His first trip. That wasn't my first trip, but I went to Africa, but I couldn't live in Africa. Maybe in a different part of Africa I could live, which I would have to travel more throughout Africa to get a better sense of self. But I had traveled to 6 countries on the west coast of Africa, and I didn't like it. I mean, it's nice, but I didn't like it. The culture and the food, I can't eat the food. Made me sick. So I couldn't deal with it. But I've been to France and I've been to Marrakesh, which is the old Casablanca, right? North Africa. I've been there. Now that's a beautiful city, but you got to have cheese to live there. It's expensive city, right? Like France, expensive city as well, right? Luis Rodriguez. I hate when people use the U.S. to say dumb things like they're uneducated because they're in a second or third world country. We don't even rank high in STEM or education. Very true. But the thing is, I forgot how the classification of third world even became a thing, right? It's not really necessarily just about the standard of living. It's actually it's a status thing that England, the United States, and several other European countries came together to create because they because of the I think it had something to do with the United Nations and the Security Council and how they would actually have voting rights and power. That's where it really all started from. But when you go to these countries, like the other day, I was at the gym, right? And I normally never take my phone out of my pocket unless I'm responding to a message, I'm changing my music, or I'm looking at an app for a workout routine. And I had already finished my workout, and I was doing my 15-minute, cool off on a treadmill. And I took my phone out, and it was something I was listening to. I'm not sure if it was Angry Man or somebody. So I, put my phone horizontal, and I was watching it. And then I got off the treadmill, cooled down, got off the treadmill, and went into the locker room. And because I had my head, my little earbuds in, I could still hear it, but I left it on the treadmill. And the young lady, I guess, that was next to me saw it, took it to the front desk, and I know the owners of the place because, matter of fact, that family is one of the richest family in the country, and I taught two of their children, and so one of the owner's son, he came over to me and he came in the locker room and said, "Hey, Lee, is this you?" But because I keep on my phone, I keep my picture as one of the screensaver pictures. So anybody pick it up and they turn it on, they can see that's me. If they know me and they have the mind to return it, they'll do so. But what I'm saying is that a third world country that economically is in a worse position than the United States, the people are not thieves. In this country, this phone is like 45,000 pesos, about 1,500 in the US. It's an Samsung S22 Ultra. In the US, I walked away, I would have never saw this phone again. I would have to go online and kill my EIM code and all that shit, call into my carrier and try them to disable my phone. All my stuff is uploaded anyway, so it's in the cloud. I can retrieve it. But the point is the quality of the people is also significantly different. I've lived in this country now almost 15 years, never once been stopped by the police. Never had an argument or a fight with anyone. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have, especially among men and when you're drinking and talking, you could have heated disagreements, but it doesn't escalate to the point of where you're challenging my ego. You're disrespecting me. Now we got to handle it. It never get there. Men treat each other with far more respect among each other. And I think that's something that for me was so valuable that it was far better for me to move here than to stay in the United States. And in the life that I live in the United States, I didn't deal with a lot of those issues. But when you find a place that just takes your stress levels from here, ooh, and just bring it down to almost zero, that mental peace, it's unquestionable. It's unquestionable. And I think as Black men, as we start to travel around the world and go to different places and meet different people and engage, we start to see a whole new world. And I think that sometimes is where most people will say, you know what? I have an option. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to make an option immediately to leave the United States, or you may never leave the United States, but at least it broadens your mindset for you to be able to see what are the things that you value most. And then you may decide, you know what? I'm going to move to this part of the country because in this part of the country, I feel I have a better sense of self. People are more respectful one to another, right? I don't, my life is not at a heightened stress when I encounter the police, black, white, or otherwise. I mean, when I came to this country, the violence was extremely high in terms of drug violence, right? But in all that, and I've been on the bus several times when I was going through to the border, that the military police, they would come on the bus and they'll take everybody off. They'll check your papers. And usually they do that because sometimes some of the gangs will get on the bus and ride with you. And then there's a long stretch before you get to the border, and that's where they usually will take out their guns, and they'll try to take you off, take your phone, take your money, or anything of value. So the police will do those introduction. They will interdict and to try to make sure that there's no criminal element, degenerates, like Miss Renee had mentioned earlier. There are no degenerates on the bus that could uh, disrupt the general population, regular, good, nice people who are just going about their life doing what they need to do. So, traveling broadens one perspective. So that in itself is important for Black men. And I think for anyone, men or women, who will slander Black men who want to travel, whether it's under the moniker of Passport Bros or SYSBN or whatever other new title that may come up that Black men may use, I think that is just that says something about that person inside, right? Welcome aboard, Damascus Brewer and Flex Henry. How are you guys doing? Damascus, you can go first. What's your opinion on the topic today?
Hey, shalom, Elder. Well, yeah, in this modern day and age, men really do gotta watch themselves in damn near everything that they do. Um, you know, um, being myself, 40 with no kids, I guess my perspective is a little different because I don't carry the burdens of a lot of men with kids, but on my perspective, after seeing a lot and all and what's going on, especially with today, yeah, it's scary. It's definitely it's definitely worrisome. Um, but
Well, let me ask you this: what's your perspective with regard to governments allowing women to legislate emotions or feelings, laws
that,
being put in place that are based on a feeling as opposed to a society infrastructure, uh, either moral code or ethical code of behavior. And it's not bound to any of those things. It's bound to the feelings and opinions or imaginations, real or not, by a group of women.
it's that's chaotic in nature itself. Um, when you have feelings over fact, then the results is not going to be in favor of anyone. Because a woman's feelings change 1 second here, 1 second there. So they really can't make up their mind on what's what. As for men, see, we men like to think long term and think into the future with logic. Um, but with the legislation front, um, yeah, I definitely see that women, when it comes to making laws and stuff, they put more emotion into logic. Um, because
Well,
it's
it's not so much to add on to what you're saying. It's not so much that they're putting emotion into the logic, is that they're making laws to help them not be uncomfortable.
or unaccountable.
Because if a man cat calls and say, "Hey baby, that's a really nice dress you're wearing," or "You got some beautiful lips," or "You got a nice hairstyle," or "Hey, can I holla at you? I'd like to take you out." Whatever. If she's not attracted to that man, she may, some women will say, "Well, thank you very much," and keep it moving. Other
Mm,
women will look at it and say, "He's short, he's chubby, I'm not attracted to that. Therefore, he's kind of a creepy. Why he's even approaching me?" Right?
mhm,
And because of that uncomfortableness in her feeling at that moment, they're now making laws to try to stop that encounter from even happening.
mm.
And because men are the pursuers for relationships, all men have to see, especially men who are successful or on their path toward becoming successful, all they need to see is one or two examples of men either being accused falsely or being found guilty of something like that. Once they see the evidence of these laws being implemented in society, and now the judiciary is acting upon it, it doesn't matter if it happens to me. If it happened to you, I'm gonna make sure it don't happen to me. Men are gonna take steps to limit their exposure to that type of risk, because the more you got to lose, the more you have to protect. The less you have to lose, the more reckless you can be. Right? So this is really where the glass house situation is, because the glass house represent the man could be right in front of you, but he ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah.
And if the man don't initiate, most women won't initiate.
Yeah, that's true.
So then they'll get together as a group and be bitching, and how come men aren't men anymore? Where the real men at? They'll be making stuff like that, which is also insulting, right? So now they're insulting you for doing the very thing they said they didn't want you to do, which is approach them. Because you don't know whether this woman will find you attractive or that woman was trying you attractive, and on which day, or what you might be wearing, right? Because on a Saturday, you might be dressed down. You just got on some jeans, nice shirt, maybe some, I used to like to wear Calvin Klein Reactions, very comfortable shoe. That was my thing. So I'm chilling on the weekend. I may not be dressed, but if a woman is being judgmental in that way because I'm not wearing a suit like I would when I'm at work, she may say, he looked like a bum.
Right.
But on a Monday to Friday when I'm dressed, she may see me, and depending on where she may see me hanging out, she might be like, I push up, and she might be open to that conversation. So it's so nebulous as to how they could come to that conclusion as to whether you're the right guy to push up or not the right guy to push up. A man would have to say, you know what? Unless I'm being introduced to somebody directly through a friend or a business associate or family, I'm not even messing with none of these chicks. So that's why I'm making the supposition that, are they painting themselves into a glass house?
Oh yeah,
They
definitely.
created their own demise. Yep, they created their own demise.
Flex Henry, yes, go ahead, Flex.
You know what's funny is that and let me give you your flowers, man. You're like my second favorite behind Kevin when Kevin was alive. And the funny thing is that they wanted Kevin gone, but he can't really go because every day, every week, they do something that resurrects his memory because it's something that they
Proves
said.
him right.
So
Proves him right every time. Every
So
time.
true. So true. They make him more relevant, and they make him a stronger
Absolutely.
martyr. They made him
Proves
stronger
him
than when he
right
was alive.
every time.
Because before he passed,
Man,
they could have criticized the man. They could have insulted the man. They could have found something about him to try to cut at his, his success. But as now that he has passed away, not only is he the Godfather, but he's become more like a god.
yeah, so I think it's pretty funny, and it's like you said, they've painted themselves into a corner. Because, I mean, just the other day, I think it was on YouTube. A white woman had called the police on a guy for looking at her. And in the UK, I think they're already prosecuting on those
Yes,
type of terms.
exactly.
So if guys don't even approach now, and so they're painting themselves like they said, in about 5 to 10 years, 45% of women will be single. That number might go up by another 10 to 15%. It might be 65% of the women to be single.
Exactly. Because they're making that assessment based on sentiments now.
Exactly.
5 years from now, by the time we hit 2030, those things can compound and be far greater than what it's reflecting now.
And they're trying to string up the passport bros based upon some reactions by one person, which you can't. I mean, when it comes to black men, whenever one person does something, they try to hold it against all of us. And that's unfortunate. Even though we
So
know that,
true.
even though, yeah, but they won't take the best of us and let that person reflect all of us. So we got to protect our own image, which is fine. However, they try to complain or make allegations about the education and the intelligence of women in these third world countries, but places like Cuba have a 90% literacy rate.
Mhm.
When there's places out here in the United States where 90%
Barbados
of
also in the
children
Caribbean.
are illiterate.
Right.
So, and when it comes to women, what men look for is not so much book smarts, but common sense.
Common,
And
yes,
that
and
is the
common decency.
book smarts can't replace common sense because
Hmm.
with book smarts, you're excelling in an environment that's structured. And I think women need that because I don't think women are naturally structured. Men are more naturally structured, more
True. True.
organized, and can compartmentalize a lot better. Where women are more likely all over the place. They can't decide where they want to eat one minute to the next or what they want to wear when men will have their clothes picked out the day before and we'll know
Right.
where we want to go and we know the things that we want to do. So it's not so much about education. I mean, I think women get it confused about men not wanting the women to be educated. It's not that men don't want women to be educated. It's just that certain women weaponize education against the men and
Exactly.
they'll use it
Exactly.
as a way to hold it against men as a way to place themselves above men. But men don't never had a problem, especially black men. Black men have never had a problem with women being educated. Black men have never had a problem with black women working. That has never been our fight. Black women have been
Right.
working in America as long as we've been free because they've been nannies.
Thank you.
They've
Thank
worked
you.
inside houses cleaning. They've worked at restaurants, whatever the case may be. Black women and black men have always worked and have relationships where they've always worked. But I think the problem is now is that a lot of women will use a degree as a way to feel like they're above the man that they would normally be placed with. As in, okay, now I got this degree, I'm better than the average man.
I'm better.
And that's the
Right. Right.
problem. And that's the problem that that's happening now. They feel like they can get a man that they normally don't qualify for and still don't qualify for. Because a man doesn't look at a woman with an education like, all right, we can take that and we can use that. Anytime that there's a YouTube video and they ask a woman that makes a certain amount of money, all right, what are you going to do with your money? And they all said that they want to keep their money and they want to spend your money. So if that's the
And
case,
that's what.
why would it? Mhm. If that is the case, why would a guy care about what it is you do for work, how much money you make, what type of education you have? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be paying for everything, and you're going to want to keep your money. So that what you do has no relevancy to me. If
It's a
that's the
status
approach
symbol.
that you're going to take, exactly,
She
Yeah.
basically
It's a
wasted her
status
time
symbol. They
then.
use it as bragging rights, right? That's why you would hear women
exactly.
say, "Oh, he's intimidated by me."
Yeah, and that's why Kevin used to say, "Hey, put your D up."
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, of the three attorneys that I dated, there was only one that I really, I would say, liked and respected because she did not allow her education as an attorney and her position in terms of her career to give her a big head to think that she was better than other people, particularly better than men or black men for that matter. She was I wouldn't say a humble person, but she was intellectually smart. She could have a conversation with anybody on any subject, but she didn't kind of walk around with a chip on her shoulder like she want to, knock you over the head to show you how smart she is, right? She could take you at your level wherever you are, and but there were other women that I met that were attorneys, and the first thing they start doing when you meet them is like cross-examining you, like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I'm just trying to get to know you. I didn't commit no crime here. What are we talking about, right?
exactly.
They want to do a complete background check investigation. I don't even know if I like you. I just met you, right? We're just talking. So this whole investigative discussion, why don't we just see if you is the person I like and me is the person you like? And later on, if that happens and we exchange information, then we can get to know each other more. And then obviously the background of who I am and the background of who you are will come out as we get to know each other. But on first
Yeah.
encounter, I've met so many in New York. There's a lot of female attorneys, so you meet a lot, right? And I've met quite a few, and I've dated several. But some of these women can their accomplishment is the badge in which they, it's like a FBI. They wear their badges on the outside so you can see them coming in with their power. That's how they wear their degree. It's like it's a badge of some sort. Like, I'm powerful, right? Give me my respect. Ain't nobody trying to disrespect you. Just have a conversation. You're a woman, I'm a man.
Yeah.
Let's take it
And
from
also,
there.
Mr. Lee, and also it's like they're trying to force us to want to like that. Like they think like we're like once they get that accomplishments and we're supposed to like that. I'm like, no. Like that's not how men, determine if we're going to be in a long-term relationship with you. I mean, like that's great. I mean, like again, just like how Flex Henry said, that's great. You have a degree. That's great. You have some sort of, something to your name, but okay, that's not what I like as a man. So it's like, okay, you're not gonna force me. You're not gonna force my male nature to change just because you got a degree. Like, no, you're not gonna change that. So yeah,
And that's the thing. Just like Carlyle says, it's being looked upon or being used as a gateway to being equal. The thing is that they're measuring themselves by male metrics as opposed to female metrics, right? Because what makes a man valuable to a woman is not what makes a woman valuable to a man. And a woman's money does not, if, how can I say it? If it was common for women to marry men from any station of life, and when she married him, if she was rich, he would then become a high value man, let's say. And if they divorce, other women that are rich would choose that man. Then you could say women who have economic status is equal to men. But women with high economic status it doesn't translate the same way. It don't transfer. If a rich woman is with a guy that's just an average guy, and I made the example, I think, on Wednesday in the show, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, when she married that professor, his station in life didn't go up. He remained just a college professor.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was the other way around, and he was the rich guy and she was the professor, if he married her, one, she'll be known as the wife of this billionaire. Two, when they divorce, other billionaire men would choose her to be his wife. But billionaire women don't choose broke dudes. And I'm sure part of the reason why she probably divorced him was because when they sat at business function and the billionaire wives that she is sitting at the table with, she's probably sitting with the executives, and the wives of the executive are sitting at another table, and you got 6 women and this dude, because he's the wife of the billionaire, and they're the wife. She's the husband of the billionaire, but he's playing the wife role. And the other wives of the other billionaires are playing their role as women. So he's sitting at a table with 6 women. What are they going to talk about? So you know what those women say to her? What are you doing with this dude? She doesn't add no value to you. Go ahead.
exactly.
You know what? We're not. I don't want women watching this and thinking that we're knocking women with education, because I know in She Critique that we're just talking about this the other day, and I want to make it clear: there's nothing wrong with a woman pursuing her education and getting a degree, but it doesn't matter to us because most likely you're bringing debt, and most women.
That's
You know,
one.
think of any girlfriend or wife that you've had. Most women don't even give good gifts. Not on Christmas, not on birthdays, not no time,
Thank
because they
you.
don't like spending money on men. No matter if they have the
Absolutely.
money or not, you end up with drawers, socks, and a tie. Where when it comes to men,
And gloves. In New York City, it's cold. You get gloves.
but when it comes to men, we actually, all right, we know that she like this. We might have to save up. But we're gonna break the bank to get them what they want. But that never goes both ways.
It's
We'll
not
accept it.
reciprocated.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
It's
not
not
reciprocated.
reciprocated.
But that just goes back to the main point: is that women don't really want equality. They just want the benefits of being a man, but they don't want the downsides of being a man. Like they'll never let a man be a stay-at-home dad without having resentment. They'll never let the man
Right.
go and pick up
Exactly.
the kids and help with homework while they work 8 hours and 10 hours. They won't. They'll do it if they have to, but they'll do it begrudgingly, and then they'll hold against you for the rest of your life.
Well,
So
they'll do it temporary.
yeah,
If you're in a relationship, you have a child or two, something happened, you get sick or whatever, and you're out of work for 6 months, maybe to a year, she may pick up the slack,
yeah,
but she would
exactly.
have to work more to pick up that slack, and she will resent you for it, even if your health is part of the reason. It wasn't just you being lazy, not wanting to work, right? So they will
Exactly.
resent you no matter
Absolutely.
what. So it's not about the education. I think is if you're going to be educated, what is the purpose of your education? If you want to be a wife and have children with a man, then have an education that could benefit a relationship where two people will be building together, or where you could be beneficial to your children in that relationship with your husband. Because if you're a doctor, matter of fact, there's this guy from the U no from Canada, and I don't remember his name. He's bald headed and he's got a funny name. Begins with an M, Molyneux something. But he was
Yeah.
interviewing some women from what's that country? Not Denmark, New Zealand. And there was a woman who she was a PhD doctorate. She had like several degrees, and she was making $250,000 a year. And not only did she want a man with equal income, in the conversation, she said if she met a man that had the economics to provide at the level where she was, she would quit being a doctor and be a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And he said to her, and New Zealand, the government pays for your education. So the government paid all that money for her to become a PhD doctor, and she gonna walk away from it. Like men don't do that.
No.
Men don't do that. So that's why I say they get these degrees as a status symbol, like a badge that, like I'm a CIA, I'm FBI, I'm powerful. But in reality, they don't really want it. They're not gonna work 60 years.
No.
They're not gonna work until they're 65. By the time they have their first or second child, they're throttling it back and they're going to be a stay-at-home mom or a part-time worker, and that's as good as it gets, no matter the degree. Now, I'm not saying every woman would do that. There are the exceptional who would go out and work, but even the ones who go out and work, they're not going to work as hard. So this is why I think men find that, problematic. Go ahead.
The funny thing is about what you just said is that there's a structural and muscular differences between men and women, and we are built to work like that. We can work 8 hours, 12 hours, years at a time, no problem. But because a lot of these women are going to be unmarried, they're not going to be able to stop working. Because it's like Kevin said, if you don't have that, what did he say, 1.5 to $3 million that you need from 60 to the end of life, you
Right.
can't quit.
You're shit out of luck.
Some of these jobs will
shit out of
force
luck.
you out. And you'll be waving and greeting people at Walmart, or you have to work ancillary jobs, but you're going to have to work because you're not going to have a man to depend on. And if you don't have kids, you're not going to have a child to bring you in. And you don't even know if they're going to be financially straight enough to bring you in because they might be taking care of their own family. So now, and
But
about in the next 10 years, you're going to start to see it because a lot of women, they break down, they get hurt easier. Their bones aren't as
right.
aren't
Their
as
body
strong.
breakdown, especially
Exactly.
women who have children.
Yep.
Their body break down.
So you're
And also,
gonna start to see that.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
because I used to work for Amazon in the warehouse, and I've seen like 60, 70-year-old dudes working there, like old and even older women working there. I'm like, shouldn't you be at home on your retirement? Like, what are you doing out here lifting all these heavy
But
boxes and stuff? So it's coming. It's coming.
but
Like, and
it's
these
gonna
women
get
are
even
just
worse.
driving down. It's getting worse. It's gonna get worse.
It's
Yeah.
going to get worse. And the reason why it's going to get worse because of the robotics that's getting ready to roll out in the next couple of years with AI.
Oh,
McDonald's
Yeah.
have already made an order for 10,000 robots to totally run their operations for McDonald's customer service and, just their restaurant service. So all you're going to need is maybe a manager or one person to communicate with people in the event that they need to communicate. But senior citizens are not going to be able to fill those jobs. People with,
hmm
low, if you're a high school dropout or just a high school graduate and you don't have no real skills, you won't be able to get those jobs. Customer service jobs are going to be robotics. Uber, I would say by 2030, most of these cars are going to be automated cars. You're not even going
self-driving.
to need a driver's license anymore, bro.
Yeah. It's
But you're going
automated.
to need a
Yeah.
driver's license for the cars are going to drive themselves. So the way society and modernity is moving, women are going to be in a real bad position because unless they have a real good career, they're just not going to be able to make enough money. And
Yeah.
retirement age is going up and up and up because the lifespan is going longer and longer.
Mhm.
I think it's within 6 years, 70 is going to be the new requirement age. So that means from 20, 25 years of age, you're going to have to work 50 freaking years before you can even
Mm.
retire.
That's crazy.
And if you're not together with a good man that can build, you're done.
Forget about
You're
it.
done. You're done. And this is where I say when I say women are putting themselves in a glass house because they've made the law so men can't approach them, especially if you're attracted to the woman. The first thing they always tell you is, "Oh, you just want sex." But what else you got to give me? I mean, until you can get to the stage in a relationship where you can assess the value of the woman in your life to take it to the next level, whether it's a commitment or whether it's marriage, the sexual desire is going to be the draw. Your attractiveness is going to be the draw.
Yeah.
My financial success or accomplishment is going to be your evaluation as to whether or not long term we could build something. Or unless I'm broke and I got good dick game, then that's going to be what I bring to the table, right? And there'll be women who going to choose that. I choose you. But in general, the broader society, women and men are going to have to really be able to build something together as a relationship because the economics is going to get worse and worse. And things
Because
things just get more expensive. Things never go back in price. That's just not,
Man,
Oh,
you
no.
see
when I was
everything
growing up,
going up, man.
You could get a Coca-Cola for 12 cents. Yeah, you can't get a Coca-Cola for 12 cents now. Yeah, go ahead. Were you
yeah,
going to say something?
yeah,
Carton of eggs is costing like $8 now.
What's
Believe it or
that?
not, a carton of eggs is about $8.
Ouch.
that's crazy.
Oh yeah,
Do you
crazy.
realize that and like I saw a video from Austin yesterday. You could literally eat for $2 per meal 3 times a day. So literally that $8, you would have
hmm
25% more of your money left at the end of the day having 3 squares eating out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mm.
$2 a day.
That's
I mean
why.
$2 per
That's
meal.
why as a man, and men hear this, acquire as many transferable skills as you possibly can.
Absolutely. Not only
So in order
transferable,
for
but
you to
mobile skills.
exactly,
Skills that are mobile
exactly,
that you can work anywhere, any
anywhere,
country.
exactly, anywhere. Because
And
man,
that's
it
why I
don't.
say,
It's
like sometimes, they talk about people getting the bag, right? My approach to getting the bag, I've always been make yourself valuable. So whoever you approach as an industry or a business, as a career for a business, for an employee, that they will find you valuable enough to pay you what you want, and always negotiate from high. Like before I ever went out on a negotiation, I always got online and check salary.com or whatever and see what is the mean salary and what is the top line salary to be paid. And then you start at the top line salary and negotiate down. You don't negotiate up, you negotiate down from your perspective. Because the boss or the manager of the company, they're not going to say, oh, you only want 50,000? We pay 75 for this, so we'll pay you $75,000. No. They'll try to get less and then bring you to whatever that advertised base salary is that they're offering, right? But if you start in low, if you go in asking, if the position is 90 and you ask for 75, they just saved themselves $15,000, right? So knowing your value and bringing a skill to the table is very important. I believe in bringing a skill to the table. That way you could demand what you want. And when you're the best or in the top level, you're not the best of everybody, but you're the best. You're in the top ranks. You're a top producer. And if you're a top producer, there's a certain skill level that you have and a income level that you will have that no matter what company you sit with, they're going to know. They could do a quick background check. They could see where you work. They can see how much money you make, right? So I believe in building yourself up with the proper skills. You know, LeBron James and all these guys, they don't get multi-million-dollar contracts because why? Because the owner of the team or the league like them? No, because he know if he's on my team, one, I can win championships, and two, I can make billions of dollars. So if I can make billions, I'll pay you hundreds of millions. And that's been my approach. Make yourself indispensable with the skills and talent that you have, that you can demand what it is that you want and get it.
Yeah,
and I think if black men, if we move that way, we will always succeed. Somebody's about to say
it's
something?
like, yeah, it's just like, because most people, because it's like kind of working backwards. You want them to come to you because you have to,
It's not
one,
working
build
backwards.
yourself.
That is the way it's supposed to work. You want them to come to
Well,
you,
yeah,
but part of that
I know,
is
I know,
developing.
Mr. Lee.
You also have to do one thing. You have to develop your reputation. So the first good job that you get, bust your ass. Work
Yeah,
12 hours. Stay late, be there early. When I first went to Wall Street, I'd be standing outside the door. I did that for about 2 weeks. My boss said, here, you're the only one that'll have a key to this office. He gave me a key to the office in 2 weeks because I was standing outside the office door every day.
Yeah,
and I put in 12 hours every day. So when you move that way, someone is always looking, bro. When you work in a business, a corporation, or whatever, you might think people not looking. Someone is always clocking you to see how you move. And guys who are selfish, like especially if you're a salary worker, right? Salary worker people, they just, well, I punch my clock, I do my 40, and I'm out. If you move like that, you will never be promoted. You will never be promoted. The guy that show up early and the guy that stay late, the guy that's asking questions, that's the guy that they're looking at. A supervisory position, a team leader position, a junior manager position. They know what's going on in the organization, and they're looking at people who have the talent, the ability, the drive, the desire. Those things are inert, but they project themselves outwardly by the way you behave. So you have to make yourself valuable to others so they can say, aha, I want you on my team.
Yeah.
One quick second, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Timothy Blute, thanks for the $10 super chat, my brother. They want equity, not equality. Yeah, they want equity of outcome without putting nothing in up front, because they already have equality. Under law, there's no difference between a woman or a man in the United States. But in actuality, under law, women have more rights under law than men. And that's the problem.
Yeah. So yeah, the point I was trying to make, it wasn't like trying to contradict anything. It's more like just what you said. Instead of like trying to go out there and trying to find the most, valuable thing, actually build yourself up so then they will be calling you. So then like you'll be the obvious pick for them to be in whatever position they need you to be, or position whatever you want to be in, and then they'll provide the space for you in order for you to take advantage of that opportunity. And also with that being said, it's just like, just how this system is going. Women created their own demise. I mean, they can only blame themselves for what they did. I mean, they wanted all these benefits, but not seeing the long-term consequences. They're just, just going out and just thinking that, trying to force the world to accept what they want us to
See,
accept
yeah,
instead
what
of
they want.
seeing things.
Not
Yeah,
gonna happen.
instead of seeing things for what it actually is. They're so wound up in their emotions, and just like you said, Mr. Lee, they wear their degrees and stuff as a badge, not really just because of their accomplishments, just because they want that validation, just to say that they have a
Correct.
degree. They're not going to work those.
Correct.
They're not going to work those hours. They're not going to, put in that time or that hard work because it's stressful. To be successful and to maintain it as well is the other part that they don't understand. It's like once you get there, you have to stay there, and they don't understand that concept. So when they finally get into those fields and they realize, oh snap, I have to do all of this. Now they're like, okay, let me find a man who's at that level, so then I can just sit back and relax,
I
and
can
then
go
focus
back.
on
Exactly.
focus
Exactly.
on what they really want to do. So, but then the thing is, it's like, why did you have to go through all of that in the first place instead of like doing it, the smart way, actually, being the woman that, those types of men want, and then
That
getting
God
it done
made you to
early
be.
on. Yeah, doing that early on instead of going through all that rigmarole, and then now you're 40 and 30, or in your mid 30s, and now you're scrambling and trying to wonder why, like, why everything that you've been told on social media didn't work.
Mhm,
So it's
Well,
like,
mhm.
yeah,
true. Well, the thing is,
Hey,
it's like,
one second,
yeah.
Bruce. 1 second, bro. 1 second, bro. The thing is piggybacking what Definite G just said. In the end, when they find themselves in this situation where they're painted themselves into this glass house and they're not getting the results that they want, and the men that they want are leaving, and they have no ability to slander them, insult them, or do anything to just try to psychologically make men capitulate, then they'll turn it around and say, well, you're the man, you're the leader. Why did you guys let us do this? Then they'll turn it around and claim that it was our fault because we should not have allowed them to do that. Yo,
Exactly.
women are good at flipping the script, bro, and they will do just
No
that. Hey,
accountability.
Jordan, I
That
just want to holler at
is
you. I
expected.
saw your message, but then I lost track because of the conversation. So just want to say what's up to you. Thank you for tuning in every Sunday as you do. Go ahead, Demarcus.
yeah, didn't they like do a study with like these top women that was like CEO in high positions, and they asked them like various questions, and one of the main regrets was like, man, I wish I just would have just started a family, be a stay at home.
Hmm.
I didn't know I had to
Yeah, I heard
work all
about
these
that.
hours, do all this, basically work like a man to
Well,
accomplish what I
because
want to accomplish.
the thing is because men are so durable. We can put in 10, 12, 14 hours, come home, and then be at peace. Particularly if the woman is somewhat peaceful, you could come home and be at peace. So, from outward observation, we make it look easy. Putting in a 14-hour day, we make it look easy. A woman putting in 14-hour days, 6 days a week, she can't keep that momentum up. She gonna break down emotionally and mentally. She gonna break down. And the thing
And Mr.
is by them striving for those success levels or accomplishments, when they get to those heights, maintaining it is
Hmm.
hard
That's
because
a
it's
whole
hard for
nother
men. It's
game.
just that
A
it's
whole
just
nother
because
game.
as men we know how to we know how to endure pain, outward physical pain, but at the same time we know how to endure emotional and stressful pain. That's why we die 8 to 10 years sooner than women.
Yeah. And Mr. Lee, thanks for having a great show. I'm gonna sign out, and we need to see you more on
Appreciate
these
it.
YouTube streets, man. So we're gonna be
I'm
looking
you know
out for
what?
you.
I'm hoping that Tuesday I'm going to launch Sage Talk Media, which is going to be a business show that I'm going to be coming out with,
Do it.
right? Because I
Nice.
want to come from the perspective of the things that I know best, where I feel I can contribute to the market. also where I can show men various options for investment opportunities, understanding how world events trigger markets and where opportunities may lie, even in a bear market situation, because this was part of what I got paid for and what I did, right? The funny thing is, right, I remember when I was on Wall Street, there were friends that I had that I would give them certain advice, and they would want to grill me. I mean, literally grill me. And I'm like, dude, there are white people that'll pay me $100,000 a month for what I'm giving you that's free. But it's funny how you can't give away success opportunities to Black people. It's hard because we
And we
have such
hungry, so we look
the
it.
lens that we have of distrust amongst each other is crazy. And that's why for so long, my social crowd was with a very specific group of Black men, their wives, my wife, well, wife one time and wives another time, right? But I had a very small select circle of friends. And in my social business world, there was probably more white people in that world than there were Black people in that world, because I got more respect from white people in my profession than I ever got, in terms of whether it was my family or friends. They were Black. They don't trust a Black person giving them advice on whatever. And in my case, it would be finance and business. But I could go to work and I could talk to one of my clients and they will pay me more than any one of them work in 1 year. They will pay me that a month. But yet they would not take that advice. They would question me day in, day out, every single thing. And the sad thing is that the questions that they were asking, even the answers they didn't understand. So they were making it more complex because they didn't understand the broader aspects of the industry. Asking me questions and me giving you answers defeated the purpose because it created more hesitancy, more fear, more doubt, more uncertainty. Just pull the trigger. So hopefully,
If you come out with it, we gonna we listen.
again?
So you come out. I said, if you come out with it, we listening. So bring it out.
Okay.
Well,
It
ready.
seems like there's a specific group of men that are being nurtured in this space, and they're being a little bit more open-minded and probably more respectful one to another. So to the degree that some of my, I won't say talking points, but some of my experience can be shared and embraced, and you can find it where you can better your life and improve your situation and make some good investment decisions as well. Hey, whatever I can add, no problem. Right. And for
Right.
those of you who may have, well, you know what? I'm not going to say this on this show. I'll say it on another show. Thanks, Flex, for coming up. Much appreciated. Let's go into closing thoughts, and I'll start with you, DeMarcus, and then Definite G.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a crazy world out there. So, fellas, just stay up. Women, my sisters, be more diligent and be more vigilant. Uh, you know, it's a crazy world. So, brothers, let's focus. What did Umar Johnson say? We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused. So
Much
so yeah,
appreciated.
we got to keep the focus. And I mean we really do got to do something to turn things around, because it seems like everything that we're trying is not working. So yeah, I say with that, I will sign out.
Okay. Thank you for showing up. Much appreciated.
All right, shalom.
1 second, Definite G. I will say this, right? That as men, we find success through failures because we must try new things. A woman is born with her beauty until it fades, and it depends on how well she takes care of herself, how long her beauty will last. But a man must find himself and build himself. And in building yourself, you will fall many times. The scripture says a righteous man falleth 7 times, right? Which means he must get up 8 times to find his success. So that is just the nature of men. We need to try and do new things and take risk. And in doing so, we find our way and we find our success. And then we build upon those success. and it takes time to reach those achievement levels. And I think sometimes it's problematic when I see any man in this space beating down other men, particularly young men or a young man like Austin. And I find it even more problematic when a woman would do it, because a woman is a mother or have the potential to be a mother. And by nature, she should be caring and kind. And she should refrain from uh, destroying the youth of tomorrow and understanding that men will make mistakes, but most men will learn from their mistakes, recalibrate themselves, and go forward with the newfound knowledge from the mistakes. And we should not be so eager to throw one another under the bus and sacrifice each other like we have no value. Because I'm sure when your turn comes to be sacrificed, you don't want nobody to sacrifice you. So we should be more tempered in how we interrelate like that. So go ahead, Definite G. I just wanted to kind of drop that for a moment.
Mhm. Yeah, ladies, you did this, not us. You created this. The reason why the future is not really looking good is because you wanted to be independent from us. Don't know why, but uh, I don't know why. It's just you you need leadership. For some odd reason, you guys can't see the bigger picture of the consequences of your actions. For some odd reason, you can't see it. So, especially in the black community, do you know the reason why black women are called the right hand of white supremacy? It's because anytime a black man wants to do things for himself or what's in his own best interest, he always gets shamed. He always gets ridiculed. He always gets berated. So, for the men, always, strive to be great, always be, keeping your head up regardless of what's going on. And ladies, you need to come back to order. You're out of order. You need to come back to your senses and come back to the natural position that God put you in. So, but you ladies wanted this, so what's coming? You're gonna get it. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. I much appreciate it, Definite G. Dami, not sure what that means. Da in Spanish means give. Mi means give me. Okay, so if you're Spanish, then give me. I'm not sure what you want, but maybe one day you'll express yourself. I got evidence on you too, Sash. Well, at the appropriate time, like most women do, and I talked about that on Wednesday's show, that there are two types of women. There are women who, when they get information on men, they will hold it and use it at some time to try to undermine the man. And then there's some women who, when they get information about a man or whatever, they'll bring the information to the man and share it with him. So in time, I guess I'll find out what type of woman that you are, right? And whatever you find, share it. My life is not an open life, but there's nothing in my life that I have to hide. So knock yourself out. You can share it with whoever you want to share it, and you can make it public, right? But you see, I'm a litigious man, right? If you share something that is illegal and wrong about me, I'll find out who you are too, and I will sue your ass. Because I move like white people move. I don't fight like black people in the hood. I don't make threats. I don't do none of that shit. I move like white people. So make sure what you bring out is accurate. Because if it's false and it's slander and it's misrepresentation, I'm going to find out who you are, and I'm going to sue your ass. See, you have to work off the books for the rest of your life so you can make pennies, because every time you put some in a bank account, it's going to be garnished. That's how I roll. So I am not the type of guys like you guys know that yell back and forth. I don't do that. I don't make threats. I don't have an ego. I understand the laws of America and I move that way. So if you want to bring something out, I don't have a problem. Because I haven't lived an illegal life. So I'm fine. So bring out your evidence of what you want to bring out. But if it ain't right, I think I want to go to the Philippines this summer. So maybe you might pay for that. I would welcome it if you want to help me take a trip overseas. I much appreciate it with your goodwill. Anyhow, I did wanted to make a small comment to Miss Renee. Miss Renee, I'm not sure if this is your first time coming to Sage Talk. I hope that you would patronize us again in the future. I'm not sure why you have so much venomous against Black men. Maybe it's part of your past experience. But there's a different type of Black men that I'm grooming over here. And hopefully you can it could reframe your thinking and perspective about Black men in general, and that you can find someone that's probably more in line with the kind of woman that you could potentially become. Because the woman that you seem that you are right now, you have a lot of anger, you have a lot of pain, you have a lot of disdain for, I don't know if it's just general men, but obviously for Black men. And it doesn't matter who you hurt, whether it's a young Black man who's just going out on his journey of life, or if it's older Black men. Seem like you're reckless and you would hurt any Black man if you can. And if that's been your life so far, obviously you have a lot of pain inside, right? And I feel sorry for you. What I will say is that continue to patronize the show. Continue to put your comments and your opinions as I see them in the chat. Hopefully, I will help reframe your perspective and thinking about Black men. And if not, then, like Kevin says, maybe you will just have to die alone, because not many men of substance would want to live with a woman that thinks so negatively about the man she sleeps next to, unless you want a different ethnicity of man to be with. And then if so, why are you here, right? So in any event, thank you guys for tuning in. Those of you who are frequent subscribers to Sage Talk, I appreciate it. I welcome you. Keep coming back. Keep creating the interesting conversations that I see in the chat. And the females who come, you're always welcome. And if you have negative ideas about Black men, it's unfortunate, because in all honesty, when shit hit the fan, and if you're a good reader of history, at some point shit always hit the fan, right? When shit hit the fan, the only men that will protect you are Black men. And if you lose your real protection, you will suffer. So if you need to get healed, do what you have to do to get healed. Everyone don't come from the same experience. And if you suffer from pain, from whatever walk of life that you have journeyed through, do some introspection. See why things happened the way they did. See whether or not you contributed to it, or it was just, a bad luck of the draw, the cards that you had in life, right? And then see how you can improve that and get a better outcome for yourself, depending on what it is that you seek. But if your journey is only to undermine and destroy the men of your community, your Black father, if you have a Black father, your Black brothers, if you have Black brothers, uncles and cousins, or a Black son, if you at some point have children, if you don't already have, right? If you feel that way about the people that reflect the images of you, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a psychologist, nor am I a therapist, and nor do I purport to be. But I do understand something about emotional pain and distress. And I can recognize it in the way people speak, because many times people hide behind pain and they communicate something else. And I learned that from the scriptures. The scriptures taught me that. So I hope this is not your first and last time showing up. I hope you have the courage to come back. And if you need to spit out the venom, when a person is bitten by a rattlesnake, the other person have to suck the venom out, which means they have to be careful so they don't swallow it, but at the same time suck enough of it out of you so it is not enough to kill you, right? Or render you paralyzed. So if you keep coming here to Sage Talk, I'll suck the venom out of you. and then you'll be healed. And then you can look to rebuild your life to have a better outcome and be more happy and be a woman that speaks positively about Black men, and that you will have Black men of examples around you who are positive men that you can praise. So I would hope that that would happen. In any event, it's a little past 6:30 my time. This is Sage Talk. Thank you guys for showing up and participating. We had a great afternoon, and I look forward to having another interesting topic next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Relax. Prepare for your for Monday, tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good one. This is Lee, Sage Talk, signing out. Thank you. Mm-hmm.